This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Golden Tempo from last to first has to fend off Commandment in the final strides. Golden Tempo pulls away late. Golden Tempo has won the Belmont Stakes. Commandment ran lights out in second. Renegade was third. And Cherie DeVoe writes another chapter in her outstanding story.
And finally kicks away in the Delaware Oaks with a massive kick and leads by 2. The posse's trying to close in, including Paris Lily, Kinsey Queen, and Margie's Intention, but Fondly had a dazzling win in the Delaware Oaks today.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Domestic product second. C Streak is third with a furlong to go. Javier Castellano asking Tuscan Sky to finish, and he finishes full of run. Tuscan Sky in the Spendthrift Farm colors, romping home to win the Pegasus, presented by Naira Bets.
And Notional has taken the lead from Gotcha Gold with a furlong to run. Gotcha Gold trying to fight back though. Notional still there. Gotcha Gold's not done yet. He's battling on from the rail. It's Notional and Gotcha Gold. Notional's got the lead and he's getting away now. And Notional and Joe Bravo win the Salvatore Mile.
Now here's Mike Penna and Angela Hermann.
Good afternoon or good morning. Good afternoon. Wow. Good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum. It's all presented by TwinSpires, and it's all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, Angela Hermann, the Countess of Canterbury. Thrilled to have you joining us all across North America on Sirius 162, XM 207, along with our terrestrial partners, and streaming live worldwide right now on our website, horseracingradio.net. Also the place where you will find podcasts of this show and all of the great programs we bring your way every single week here on HRN. That's on our website at horseracingradio.net. Angela, I guess because we have listeners all over the world via the streaming and the podcast, there are people listening right now, and it is afternoon somewhere.
That's true. Thanks for making a very special greeting for them this morning. And good afternoon or morning, wherever you are in the globe. Just looking for some good Saturday racing. You've come to the right place.
I need more coffee. My goodness. Hey, listen, we get a chance now to catch our breath, sort of, after that flurry of the Triple Crown and then last weekend's Belmont Stakes. And Angela, I say sort of because we now start to ramp up that road to the Breeders' Cup, and the stakes races this afternoon at both Monmouth Park and Delaware and even Santa Anita could definitely play into the Breeders' Cup picture in a few divisions.
Oh, absolutely. This is the time where everybody's going to shift schedule. I think about the only one who's taking a deep breath right now might be Cherie DeVoe. You know, she's had quite the whirlwind over the last couple of months, but we have no time for taking breaths. We got to look through what the schedule brings us next. And that's horses moving locations. That's horses growing up. That's 2-year-olds making their way into the mix. All kinds of things as we turn the corner from Triple Crown season and beyond.
Cherie DeVoe has now instantly become the face of a sport, the face of an entire industry. And that goes well beyond just thoroughbred racing. Yeah, she's now the face of that industry, but now she's out there doing mainstream television and radio appearances, and she's taking the message and telling the story of racing to people that maybe have never heard that side of thoroughbred racing before. Maybe they only watch the Kentucky Derby once a year. Now they're getting a chance to hear Cherie as our voice and our representative. And yesterday she joined me on our Trainer Talk program, and it was one of the most fantastic conversations I've had with a trainer because of the fact that she was so candid about what this experience has been like and the challenges that come along with being the face of an industry and of a sport. And we're going to play a part of that later in the show. But the full show is, of course, available on podcast on our website. But she was fantastic.
And she is very authentic. Like you said, it's just easy to root for her when she can just tell it how it is.
She's real.
Yes, exactly. You never know who's going to be the next ambassador of the sport, and just given everything that she brings to the table, it's really fun to get to go along this journey with her. And you feel like you are, because she doesn't have canned answers. She's going to tell you exactly what is going on and what's going through her mind. And it's great to get that perspective from her. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that the little clip is a good appetizer to go and to get the full interview from her, because it was really fun.
Our poll question last Saturday morning was quite simple. We asked our listeners who they felt was going to win the Belmont Stakes. And if you recall, we gave 3 choices. Golden Tempo was one of those choices. And for the majority of the show, for the 3-hour program, Golden Tempo was at the back of the pack. He didn't have a single vote from our listeners saying that he was going to win. Well, he got the last laugh, didn't he?
I'm glad he can't read, because even some people who might have bet him in the Derby might have jumped off board. I won't say who, but the poll would not have led you to the correct answer. But the horse sure silenced some critics of his, myself included, in his progression really towards the horse that he is now. He's a lot better than the first time that we talked about him a few months ago.
He silenced critics. I also think the Commandment silenced some critics, even though he finished second. He finished it was a bang-up race for him, and there were people that were doubting him after his Derby effort, even though he was highly regarded going into the Derby with the way he had run in Florida all spring. I think he also put some doubters to rest with his performance.
The top 4 in the Belmont seem to back up the performances that they put in the Derby, with the exception of Commandment, who moved his up. But they ran their races when they came back to Belmont. The same horse won. And I think that he did put himself towards the top of his class for the time being. But they have, I think, demonstrated themselves to be a class that can have a new leader at any given time. Some horses are coming along a little bit later in this crop than some of the ones who would have been ready to go early on in the season. So that's just the next set of circumstances that we get. That's the next stage that we get. Some of the late maturing 3-year-olds trying to take on some of the Triple Crown contenders.
Now we get to look toward summer features like the Haskell at Monmouth, the Travers at Saratoga. When you're talking about this 3-year-old division, we're going to talk about the Haskell because Brian Skirka is going to join us in the first segment here in about 10 minutes or so. And we're going to talk to Brian about the 4 stakes races, the pair of grade 3s that are taking place on the Jersey Shore this afternoon. That is Monmouth or Haskell Preview Day at Monmouth Park this afternoon. So we'll talk to Brian about that. In terms of what Golden Tempo's schedule is going to look like going forward, the plan is for him to stay in New York. He'll go to the Jim Dandy. He'll go to the Travers, both at Saratoga this summer. That's the same path that reigning horse of the year Sovereignty took last year. And of course, as we know, he swept those 2 races as well.
I'm sure she loves all the parallels that are being drawn right away to that. You know, you can't
no
let
pressure.
Victory cool down for 5 minutes before somebody's already saying, oh, can you do what Sovereignty did? But that creates a game plan for you naturally, and a game plan that worked too. So if she's going to follow down that same path, I don't expect too much different results. They're both very talented horses. Let's just see who lines up against it. That always changes by the time race day comes around. And just in racing in general, so much can change between now and then. We have to revisit it. We'll have to, probably week by week, because that much will change.
Yeah, again, today we're going to talk about the races taking place at Monmouth. You have 6 stakes races at Delaware, highlighted by the Grade 3 Delaware Oaks, the Grade 3 Robert G. Dick Memorial. We'll talk about those races as we're joined by Chris Sobocinski. He'll join us at 9 o'clock Eastern. 9:40, our Kentucky-bred conversation comes your way with Saffie Joseph Jr. and Mark Cornett. That is the team surrounding White Abarrio, who is pointing to the Stephen Foster on June 27th, which, speaking of Sovereignty, he's pointing for that spot. Magnitude looking at that race. Baeza, it is going to be a spectacular Stephen Foster, and we'll get a chance to talk to those connections about White Abarrio later in the show. And then Angela, we'll look ahead to Royal Ascot as well. They begin their meet on Tuesday, runs through Saturday. Wesley Ward, the man who has won more races there than any North American trainer, he's going to join us coming up right around 8:35 this morning.
And that's spinning the circumstances a whole new direction. Going overseas was not a common thing, but now it's become quite the target, especially at this, I don't want to say downtime of the spring, but maybe just in the North American Stakes schedule. A good opportunity to go test the waters over there, so to speak, and then come back and get back to the American routine that you might have had in place.
We'll throw the poll question out to you in just a second, but first things first, Lee Delapina has our Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question for this Saturday morning.
Thank you, Mike. This week's Impossible Trivia question is brought to you by Mojo Racing Partners. Get your mojo working at mojoracingpartners.com. Which 18th century thoroughbred, sired by Eclipse, had a name that was 11 letters long and 9 of those letters were the same vowel? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
What a tough one that is. Actually submitted by one of our listeners, too, Steve in Kansas. So we appreciate that. And if you get it right, good for you. We'll have the answer for you coming up in the final segment right around 10:55 Eastern. Our poll question this morning, Angela, we're going to do it a little different this morning. I was thinking about this, and I could have said, hey, who do you like to win this race? Who do you like to win this race? But every once in a while, I like to engage with our listeners here on the show. And I want to know, where are you listening to today's show, and how are you listening to the show? Are you listening on the farm? Are you listening in your car? Well, pull over and text us and let us know if you're doing that, or respond to the question after you pull over into a parking lot. But yeah, where are you listening to today's show? How are you listening to the show? Is it on Sirius XM? Are you listening on a terrestrial affiliate? Are you listening on your phone? Let us know. We want to hear from you. You can go to @HRRN on X. You can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you can just email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let us know. Where are you listening to the show? How are you listening to the show? These are always fun. We get some great responses when I throw these out there every once in a while.
Please, safety, everybody. Answer us at your most safe capability. Yeah. No need to answer if you are in the middle of like 8 lanes of traffic or anything, but we'd love to know where you're tuning in from, because Saturday morning does bring together a lot of people from a lot of places, so we'd love to know.
All right, we're going to step away for a quick commercial break. When we come back, Brian Skirka from Monmouth, Wesley Ward, coming up right around 8:35. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast, with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Happy Saturday, racing fans. We have 12 big races today at Santa Anita Park, with first post time being 1 p.m. and many low takeout wagers throughout the day, like the Pick 4s, the Pick 5s, the $3 late Pick 3, and the $5 late daily double. We have 2 feature races today, the Grade 3 Daytona and the Grade 3 Summer Oaks, which brings my best bet of the day, number 1, Mizumi, who is an easy single for me in all the late multi-race bets. Today includes a family fun zone and a vintage Volkswagen car show. Tomorrow, of course, is closing day with a special front runner buffet and a family fun zone. On closing day, we will have also 12 big races and, most importantly, mandatory payouts in all the pools. That is especially important in the Pick 6, a must-play on closing day here at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita Park.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of over $34 million in purses and awards? The chance to prove you belong on racing's biggest stage? The chance to become a champion? Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you that opportunity, with an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships at Keeneland, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage. Win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn a guaranteed starting position in a Breeders' Cup race. Entry fees paid, a $10,000 nominator award, travel incentives, and more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. See the full schedule of races around the globe and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Bluegrass Cat coming up to him on the outside under a confident ride from John Velasquez. Bluegrass Cat and Praying for Cash turn for home together in the Haskell, and Bluegrass Cat is taking the lead, and he's taking off. He's got a 3-length lead, opening up from Praying for Cash, who ran a huge race today. Strong Contender is third. It is Bluegrass Cat, a romp in the Haskell. He won it by 7.
Bluegrass Cat. Wanted to use that call because that was 20 years ago that Bluegrass Cat went to Monmouth and took home the victory in the Haskell We get a chance to look at Haskell Preview Day this afternoon at Monmouth. Is going to be spectacular. Blue Cat, of course, trained by Todd Pletcher. It was his first win in the Haskell, and the Haskell coming up next month, and that's going to be spectacular. But for now, we focus on Haskell Preview Day, and it is a fantastic card on the Jersey Shore, and Brian Skirka joins us now to tell you more about it. Brian, appreciate the time.
My pleasure. I can't believe that Bluegrass Cat was 20 years ago, but time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, time sure does fly. And Bluegrass Cat, just one of the many names that's passed through Monmouth history and left his mark throughout, stakes racing. But you have quite the stakes card lined up for Saturday. And you also have a contest that goes along with it. A couple of Grade 3 races, but tell me a little bit more about the contest that you have to go along with Haskell Preview Day.
Yeah, really big day today, as you said, a stakes-loaded card and a really good card, but we also have what we call the Pick Your Prize Handicapping Challenge. So it's a $2,000 buy-in. It's our biggest contest of the year. Knock on wood, and thanks to all the horse players out there, it's been extremely well received. This is probably year 8-ish of the contest, if I had to guess, and we pretty much get more and more players every single year. It's a live money betting contest. Again, $2,000 to enter. You can play, as of right now, your only remaining option is to play on Express Bet. If you registered a little bit earlier, you could play on site or through TVG. But since it's Saturday morning, the only remaining option to register if you want to do it last second is through Express Bet. You start with a $1,000 bankroll. You have to bet at least 5 races today for Monmouth, win, place, show, exact, the double only. And then, we have a leaderboard that tracks all the scores over the course of the day. And then kind of the cool thing about Pick Your Prize is it literally is a Pick Your Prize. Most other handicapping contests out there designate the specific prizes of, okay, if you finish first, you get exactly this. If you finish fourth, you get exactly this. Whereas Pick Your Prize, there's a literal prize board, and depending on where you finish, you get either 1 or 2 picks, and you walk up to the board and you physically take the prize that you want off of the board, because everyone has different things that they really prefer in terms of prizes. Some people play for NHC seats, the National Horse Players Championship. Some people play for BCBC seats, Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, and then other people are just in it for cash. So this format allows you to literally pick your prize depending on where you finish. So it should be a really good contest. We'll be up over 300 entries today, and it should be a great addition to what will be a great Haskell Preview Day.
That's interesting that you do have the option for people when they are playing the contest. But in taking that feedback, because obviously you've heard from players that they like the choice that you give them with that, what other feedback have you got to put changes in play for the summer at Monmouth? What's new out there this year?
Yeah, and we're big on that, myself personally, and Monmouth as a whole. The contest, we'll start with that. Basically, the whole contest came from surveys with players. We kind of over the years did just kind of the quote-unquote same old contest every time. And I kind of said, let's do something different, not only different for us, but different for the country. So this is 8-10 years ago. I sent out a bunch of surveys to players and said, hey, if we wanted to create a contest from scratch, what kind of things would you want to see? A price point, the format, prize structure, whatever. And taking all those answers in, that's where Pick Your Prize was born. So it truly was, it wasn't me sitting in office saying, oh, I think this would work. I'm not a handicapping contest player. I don't know what players prefer. So I do what the players want. It wouldn't make any sense for me to be selfish and say, hey, this is what I think is the best when the players are saying something else. So we took all the player feedback and created Pick Your Prize. And as I said, it's been a raging success. For Monmouth Park as a whole this summer, our couple big changes on the wagering front is we have a $3 late pick 3 this year for the first time. We have a $5 late double. We're really hoping and anxious and waiting with bated breath to get our $3 $3 all turf pick 3. That's kind of hung up in the regulatory office. We still have to get Racing Commission approval for that. But as soon as we get approval, we'll offer that. So those are some of those, they all have 15% takeout on those special bets. So that's kind of what you see, throughout a lot of other tracks. They're doing a higher minimum and low takeout bets. And we saw, even though the $3 all turf pick 3 isn't live yet, just from opening day alone, the handles were so high on the $3 late pick 3 and the $5 late double that after one day of racing, we decided that we're going to lower takeout on every double and every pick 3 to 15%. So now, you bet the races this Saturday for Haskell Preview Day or any day of the season, any double, any pick 3 over the course of the card will be a very low 15% takeout.
When you start looking at doing those types of moves, Brian, is that a similar approach to your approach that you use with the contest, where you're surveying or polling horse players that are in attendance or horse players that are playing remotely through an ADW? Is that the same approach to coming up with a 15% low takeout?
Of course. I mean, in any industry, you have to listen to your customers. And if you're a grocery store and, the customer says we want whatever orange juice, and you're stubborn and you say, no, we're not selling orange juice, the customers are going to go someplace else to buy orange juice. You have to, wasn't that a great analogy? You have to listen to your customers.
Brilliant.
And players want lower takeout, obviously. The business of horse racing is it can only go so low. You can't offer 5% takeout on a bet, or just not going to work with the math of horse racing. But, they want lower takeout. They want some of those higher minimum bets for the pick 3s and doubles to see if that can curtail some of the CAW activity. So it only makes common sense to listen to the customer and to oblige them when it makes mathematical sense for us and for them. So 100%, we've seen the proof again through handle. We looked at the charts on opening day. We saw the handle for the late pick 3, the late double, with the changes to low takeout, higher minimums, and they were through the roof as compared to last year. So we said, all right, the proof is in the pudding. Let's, the players rewarded us for, lowering the takeout and giving them some things. So let's reward the players even more, and that's what we did. Low 15% takeout every double, every pick 3.
Well, we've set the table as far as the day for today. Now, let's talk about some of the races that are lined up, because they have drawn some nice fields. Tell me about the stakes, because, got a couple of grade 3s, some good sequences in between. Tell me a little bit more about the races that are slated today at Monmouth.
Sure. So it's a 10-race card. The stakes races start in race number 4. We have 4 total stakes races, and as we said a number of times, it is truly Haskell Preview Day. So a number of these, or all of these stakes races, are prep races towards bigger and better races on Haskell Day. Obviously, we have the Naira Bets Pegasus Stakes today for 3-year-olds, which is a prep for the Haskell itself. But the Monmouth Stakes, for example, today leads into the United Nations on Haskell Day. So they all have corresponding races. But race 4 kicks off the stakes action with the Grade 3 Eatontown Stakes. Plenty of big names in there. From a trainer standpoint, Graham Motion has the Rail Runner, Give Me Another. Miguel Clement sends a horse down from New York. Chad Brown has 2, including the defending champion and Whiskey Decision. And that's kind of what you'll see throughout all the stakes, not surprisingly. The big name trainers from all over the country shipping in their horses. Rusty Arnold has a horse in the Pegasus that Tyler Gaffalione comes in to ride. George Weaver ships down an impressive maiden winner in race 5, the Naira Bets Pegasus, who won in impressive fashion with a nice buyer in its debut. So it'll be exactly what you come to expect on the Jersey Shore and stakes races. The prominent trainers, the big name riders are in to ride that day. Flavian Pratt is here to ride for Chad. Tyler Gaffalione is in town. It's good to see Sammy Marin back. He had an injury, maybe time flight. I think it was about a month or 2 ago. Kind of right after our opening day. I know he hurt himself in a morning incident, but he's back in the saddle on Saturday, so it'll be good to see his name. So stakes races will be 4, 5, 6, and then the Salvatore Mile, which is just an absolute tremendous race. That'll be later on in race 9, and that has stakes winners galore in it. Grande for Todd Pletcher, Point Doom beat Bookham Dano 2 races back. Grand Mo the First ran in the Derby last year. Bishop's Bay is the defending champion. He's won plenty of stakes races, including the Cigar Mile last year. East Avenue, you have to go back 2 years, but he was all the rage going into that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So Salvatore Mile race 9 is an unbelievable race. But all 4 of the stakes are good, and even the supporting races are also extremely strong. Race 10 is an allowance race on the turf that came up a really tough race. So that's a good get-out race as the finale.
You've laid down the gauntlet, and there's a lot of stars along the way in there. But is there a local horse that we should keep an eye out for? You're always looking for some kind of price and a good local story. Who would it be?
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm going to go to the Salvatore Mile. There's a horse in there, Sea Streak, who's a Jersey bred. He, going back to 2024, his 3-year-old year, got really hot here at Monmouth Park. He ran in the Holy Bull down at Gulfstream. He ran in the Mucho Macho Man down at Gulfstream. And then he came here to Monmouth and won the Long Branch Stakes, which is one of the earlier preps for the Haskell, incredibly impressively by 7 1/4 lengths. He then ran in the Pegasus. He then ran in the Haskell. Again, this is going back to 2024. Clearly, there was some sort of issue at the end of his 24 campaign. We haven't seen him since this March, so he was off almost a year and a half. Came back at Gulfstream and had a prep race down there on March 1st, and now he's back here in the Cigar Mile. So it'll be interesting to see how the Jersey bred, who back again in his heyday 2 years ago was a 3-year-old, really was running some strong races, but had a lot of time off. Now he's back, and he's facing a really bare of a field in that Salvatore Mile. But we always root for our Jersey breds here, obviously, especially when they take on not only open company, but this is the best of the best. These are the stakes horses that are coming in to invade for a big stakes card. So we'll see how Sea Streak does in race 9, the Salvatore Mile.
Talking with Brian Skirka here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Haskell Preview Day at Monmouth this afternoon. The Haskell coming up next month, July 18th, and it's going to be gangbusters as it is just about every single year. Brian, look ahead to that Haskell. We know the Preakness winner is pointing that direction. Who else can we expect to see?
Yeah, I feel like the names that we've seen as possibles are really strong. Napoleon Solo, as you said, the Preakness winner, is pointing here. Crude Velocity from Bob Baffert, who just finished second up at Saratoga, sprinting. He'll be stretching out reportedly for the Haskell. The Puma, who was a horse that I actually liked in the Derby and had to scratch, unfortunately, he's pointing to the Haskell. You would assume, you never know, but you would assume that the big names like Brad Cox, Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown that have multiple 3-year-olds, you would assume or hope that one of those is going to come our way. I feel like I'm missing someone that I saw was pointed to the Haskell, but there was at least 3 or 4 like really promising 3-year-olds that are. I think further ado, after he won the other day at Churchill, they said the Haskell was on the radar for him. So it should be a very good and competitive race, and it might be one of those things where now that the Derby winner has kind of proven himself and won back in the Belmont, they've stated that he's going to stay up at Saratoga likely and run in those prep races. Do the other horses kind of shift and say, hey, there's a grade 1 down in Oceanport and we don't have to run against the Derby winner and the Belmont winner. Let's go take that opportunity. So we might be benefited by Cherie DeVos staying up in Saratoga.
You started talking about Bluegrass Cat as we played that rejoin coming out of the commercial break, Brian, and you said it's hard to believe it's been 20 years since Bluegrass Cat, and I would agree with that. Do you have, when you think about the Haskell, do you have a couple that stand out to you that are always going to be special to you?
Yes. So Haskell is my favorite day of the year, period, stop. I love the Breeders' Cup. I love the Kentucky Derby. I love when Blackfish season opens and I get to go fishing that day. But period, stop, Haskell Day is my favorite day of the year. I pretty much somewhere between get teary-eyed and cry every year. It's so much work, and it's so great to see the packed house of young fans here having a blast. So it's just my favorite day of the year, regardless of who wins. So American Pharaoh, obviously, nothing. It's going to take something really, really, really special to beat that. That was just. It turned into a 3-day festival weekend instead of just one day. Obviously, a record. We had over 60,000 people here, which was a record crowd for a horse race in New Jersey. It was everything involved. That will be very, very hard to beat. But I honestly think number 2, Rachel Alexander was high up on that list. I think number 2 actually might be Journalism last year. It was just there was something about, and his running style added to it. people, everyone loves, a Triple Crown race winner that comes and runs in the Haskell. There's a little extra buzz when that happens. But I feel like for some reason, journalism, maybe because of the way he won the Preakness, that people were just drawn to him even more, and I get it. I would be included in that. So when it got to like the middle of the stretch in the Haskell, and he was third at that point, but you could see there was a chance, and this Gosker was in front of him just like he was in the Preakness, and you could see that like this might be a replay of what happened in the Preakness minus the traffic at the top of the stretch. The roar from the crowd as he closed in was just, it was like when OG tipped in the ball for the Knicks the other night. Like it was just an eruption, and people started throwing their programs up in the air. Drinks were flying. It was one of those, like that will be something that I will never forget. So nothing will beat American Pharoah, but journalism last year was a day I'll never forget. It was amazing.
Can we run the Haskell this afternoon? I am so pumped up for this year's Haskell after listening to you go through those scenarios, my friend.
We need a little bit more time to prep, but trust me, I cannot wait for it. It's definitely, this week rivals it in terms of the amount of work that we do to put on the big handicapping contest. But Haskell week is a ton of work, but it is so worth it, and I can't wait for it.
I hope all the pieces come together as you lay them out. It sounds like it's going to be a spectacular day today, and I'm quite excited for the Haskell myself. So all the best of luck to everybody playing along, and thank you so much for your time, Brian. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great stuff. Brian Skirka here on Horse Racing Radio Network, Equine Forum, and what a great appearance that was. Listening to him describe his favorite Haskells, you do get pumped up, right? Thinking about those moments and thinking back on those moments, Angela. But today doesn't take a backseat to many cards. This is a fantastic card at Monmouth this afternoon.
And you can replay those moments in your head as many times as you'd like. It won't replicate that energy that you're going to get this afternoon. I was there for American Pharoah down in Arkansas and some of his prep before the Derby. And looking back, it still gives you those tingles a little bit because you don't know when you're going to be around a horse like that again. And fortunately, he did go all over the place, and everybody got a little taste of that because he was an exciting one to see.
Plenty more to come here on the Equine Forum. In deference to our next guest, we're going to bypass our usual Legends of the Turf segment here because our next guest, trainer Wesley Ward, is literally sitting at the airport in New York about to board a flight to Royal Ascot. We'll talk to him next, right after this break on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
As Obliteration tries to get second, Englishman. What a tremendous effort to win by 6 lengths.
Are you kidding me? Wow. Englishman, from the extraordinary first crop of Darley Stallion Maxfield, annihilating the competition in the Grade 1 Woody Stevens, posting a 115 Beyer speed rating, the highest of the year. He stopped the clock in 120.4, equaling the Saratoga track record set in 1978. And that scintillating effort makes Englishman your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Maxfield, 15 first crop stakes horses, including Grade 1 Woody Stevens winner Englishman. Maxfield has 5 TDN Rising Stars, including Keeneland debut winner Mashallah, whose 106 Beyer is the highest debut Beyer for a filly in the past 25 years. Learn more about Maxfield and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
In thoroughbred racing, breathing itself requires energy. During intense exercise, most of the resistance to airflow occurs in the nasal passages, increasing the work required for every breath. Flared nasal strips support the nasal passages to reduce that resistance, lowering the work required for breathing. When breathing is easier, horses experience less fatigue, conserve energy, and can maintain efficient oxygen delivery during exercise. Studies also show that flared nasal strips reduce the severity of EIPH equivalent to Lasix. Flair nasal strips. Performance starts at the nose.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Walter the Mason, heading for the quarter pole in front, holds the lead by 3 as they turn in. Outfielders now set down for the drive. Rebel with the Cause outside, Sandal Song and Throckmorton heading for the 8th pole. Walter the Mason's in deep water. Here comes Outfielder. Outfielder's up for the lead. In behind is Rebel with the Cause and Sandal Song. Throckmorton comes through between, but Outfielder got the jump on everybody. And Outfielder scores by 3 on the wire. And Sandal Song second, Throckmorton third, Rebel with the Cause finished 4th.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Angela Hermann, that's the Baron and the Countess, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern here this morning. Outfielder Travis Stone had the call of that win in the William Walker Stakes that was on May 9th at Churchill Downs. We're going to see him in action in the Commonwealth Cup at Royal Ascot next Friday. Trained by Wesley Ward, he's one of several horses conditioned by the 12-time Ascot winner, and really looking forward to seeing him strut his stuff because he, Angela, is ultra talented.
And he can take his act on the road really wherever. And this is where it seems he kind of points to in the spring. And why wouldn't Wesley? I mean, you get these kind of horses that fit into these stakes, and some of them have a bit more speed than some of the juveniles that they face off with overseas. That can be a weapon, especially at this point in their careers. Outfielder doesn't fall into that anymore, but Outfielder has just proven that he's the class horse that can handle this sort of thing.
Wesley Ward is literally sitting in the airport in New York, about to board his flight to Royal Ascot. He joins us now. Wesley, we appreciate a few minutes, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike.
How much time do you have before you have to board?
We got plenty of time, don't worry.
You're the best, my friend. Listen, we were just talking about Outfielder, but I want to talk about you a little bit to start this off. When you walk into Royal Ascot now, is it kind of like Jack Nicklaus walking back into Augusta National before the Masters?
So you're telling me I'm old, are you?
I'm telling you, you're accomplished.
That means I'm old. There you go. There's no place like it, like anybody that's listening. I'll tell you, and you're a horse racing fan, that's the place to be. If there's any time that you can, get together and get over there in the 3rd week in June, like we're heading into here for those 5 days at Royal Ascot, it's the epitome of horse racing. You could feel the generations coming for decades and hundreds of years for this, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Everybody's dressed up like they used to mandate in the old days, and everybody's into horse racing. Very, very much so. They all know the horses and the trainers and the jockeys and and the races that have been going on for hundreds of years, each specific race. So it's just a great place, and I've been fortunate to be lucky enough there to have success, and look forward each and every year to go back. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go last year because I just didn't have the quality to go. But we're all smiles this year, and we've got high hopes.
Wesley, it was 2009 when you made history, winning a pair of races at Royal Ascot. What do you remember about that year and that particular experience?
It was a great experience. I went over there, every year I sort of made my mark in racing and in this business, like getting horses ready to go early. It's real tough business to get going at. I found a little bit of a niche early on in my career 35 years ago to where I could get the 2-year-olds, break them and keep them going and target those early races where you weren't hitting, running into the heavy hitters because they don't come out, all the better horses, until the summer, the 2-year-olds, the high-priced yearlings and bigger name trainers. So I was able to get in there, and I sort of refined it each and every year, getting better at it and winning. And I thought, well, let me try Royal Ascot. This is, 15 years into training or so. And it was just really luck that got me to the winner's circle there. Everything went my way. I had some really nice 2-year-olds that were, not very expensive ones, but were precocious and fast and proven. They'd won. And but what really the luck factor was is the weather over there. Like if you catch a rainy of those 5 days, if it's a rainy, the track gets so deep, the turf does, that they just can't get through it. Well, the first year I went, it was like 90 degrees, and the turf was just sizzling fast, and I had Johnny Velasquez up, and we broke, and off we went, and they just kept running. And, I found out later on you need everything to go right to win, and it was just sort of everything came together on the first year I went, which kind of got me going from then until now.
Hey, Wesley, Angela Hermann here. And you talked about the first year you were there. It was 90. How has the experience evolved since then?
It's getting a lot tougher, because, at first, for decades, they teach their babies, their 2-year-olds, to break, and the riders kind of break on their mouth and go real slow and come home with a rush. That's the way that they've always been gone. So my guys were off to the races 3 or 4 or 5 lengths in front, and then Johnny just backed them up. And when they started coming with their run, Johnny had so much left that off we went. So they've sort of changed it all around. They don't want to let me win out there with an easy lead anymore. Now all their races are a lot faster pace early on than they used to be.
It certainly makes sense. Wesley Ward joining us ahead of his trip to Royal Ascot, looking for more victories after winning 12 races. His first, as you just heard, coming back in 2009. Wesley, how about outfielder? We just heard the call of him winning the William Walker Stakes. He is an ultra-talented runner. He can take his game anywhere. We'll see him, next Friday in the Commonwealth Cup?
Yeah, he'll be there. He's, we tried to make it there last year. He's a big colt, and he kind of came to hand quicker than we thought, but it was just on the heels of Ascot. So he won so impressively there at Churchill, but he came out with just a hair of a shin, of which a lot of 2-year-olds do, and he just didn't come back around from his race to Ascot. So we backed up on him, gave him the time, and had him ready to go, and we sent him over to France to the Prix-Morny, a race I've had a couple winners in, and the problem with that race was he ran a great race. He was only beaten 2 lengths or so, finished 4th, but all the other horses in there had experience. They had a few runs where we were only coming off 1 run. So he really ran a great race, and then brought him back to Keeneland on the dirt, and he won, and we were kind of choosing which way to go for the Breeders' Cup, and we decided to go a mile, and they just went too quick early. He went 45 and change, and so we just gave him some time off and brought him back this year, and he's run 2 huge races. One at in the big stake over at Turfway, $250,000, and then the race that leads up to this, the William Walker, he just kind of set off a early pace goer, and then he just cruised right on by and won by a few lengths. But this is going to be those races.
And then you have the Queen Mary, which is a race that you have had so much success in. You're going in search of your 5th win in that race this season. According to what I read, 3 horses pointing for that race. Are they all going to run?
2 or 3 will run. I'm going to divide them up. There's 2 5-furlong races this year. Unfortunately, there used to be 3 with the Windsor Castle, but they've stretched the Windsor Castle out to 6 furlongs. And so the Norfolk, which is Saturday, against the Colts, I've got 2 or 3 fillies in that, and I'll have 2 probably in the Queen Mary. We're going to decide here shortly.
Okay, so the 2 that would likely, well, let's just talk about all 3. Ruiva, Shining Moment, Fanshell Beach. Tell me a little bit about each of them.
They're all very nice fillies. So Fanshell Beach won. She was a TDN Rising Star on the dirt. First season sire Corniche. Out of an unusual heat mare, though. It's sort of an unbelievable sire from California that I'm familiar with, and he's a grass sire. So we worked her on the grass here at Keeneland, and she sort of really stepped it up, and we worked her again over at Newmarket. She really, you could tell she has an affinity for the grass. So she's very, very nice. We may go in that's the one that we may revert to the Norfolk Stakes on closing day Saturday.
Okay. And there are others pointed for the Norfolk as well, if I'm not mistaken. Easy Tina through the years?
Easy Tina and through the years, yes.
Okay.
So Easy Tina, beautiful filly. We paid dearly for her. We paid $600,000 for her there at Keeneland last September. And she's by my sire, Golden Pal, that I trained at being a first season sire. For her to bring $600,000, she was just a unbelievable physically to look at her, an athlete. And so that's why we paid so much. And she's really, her first race, she came out, she just bounded away from there up in Canada and had a really big figure come back, an 85 buyer figure. And she's kind of moved forward from that race. She had a really nice work in Newmarket the other day on the July course. So we're excited for this one.
Wesley, I know you have to board the flight, so I won't keep you much longer. One more question. When you're deciding which horses you're going to take to Royal Ascot, now that you've had so much success, you know what horses fit in certain races, what are some of the signs that you look for to let you know, yes, this is a Royal Ascot type of horse?
Well, you can sort of see, by doing it for so many years and just like all of the guys down in Ocala that are training their babies going into the 2-year-old sales or any of the bigger trainers that got a pretty large pool of horses that they're training from 2-year-olds babies, the sort of the faster and the better ones rise to the top. If you're watching the workouts, I imagine that would be the way in any sport, basketball or baseball or football, whatever. You can really see which one of those athletes are sort of shooting up to the top at that particular time. And you start breezing them together and then, which one's better than the other. And then you go to the races and then, hopefully they go on to do as well as you think and win. And that's what mine have done. And then from that pool, you take it on from there. So it's not as hard as it seems, when you're sort of getting these athletes. And there's so many different factors, though, to win races anywhere, not just Ascot, but you could go to Belterra and you think you got a winner and somebody's in there that beats you. So it's just, there's a lot of luck involved.
Well, Wesley, I want to wish you safe travels over there. All the best with those horses. Let's go get some more victories. And I hope they treat you like Rory McIlroy walking back into there.
Let's do it, buddy. We're all excited. Everybody on my team's all excited. It's not me. I'm not the one that's, it's a whole big team of us that are all excited for this, that we've been working with these horses since we bought them in September. So, hopefully, and all the owners that, putting all kinds of money in to get them over there and get them to this point. So, hopefully we get some luck.
Appreciate the visit, my friend. Safe travels, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Wesley Ward. How great is Wesley?
Oh, yeah. I mean, taking
just so much fun.
Fit us in. Yep.
And he's got a pretty strong hand again this year. As you heard him walk through some of those horses and why he thinks they fit and all of those types of things. But what I loved is when he talked about that first year and you asked him what has changed. And he said they used to just blast off from the gate. And now all of the Europeans are starting to train for more speed so that they can keep up with him at Royal Ascot.
Right. I think that, any natural speed that they would see, they know that the rest of the Europeans are going to stay on par. But once you get some American speed in the mix, you really got to speed up the regimen, I guess. I had some questions about 2-year-olds. We'll have to get him back sometime to talk more about the juveniles and how to go about things. But It's good to hear a preview from him as he gets ready to go overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking as we were joking around with him about the Jack Nicklaus thing, and he said, "Are you calling me old?" And that's why I threw out Rory McIlroy at the end. I thought he might like that a little bit better. But there are so many golfers, professional golfers, that love horse racing. And in particular, I know Lee Westwood gets a chance to make it to Royal Ascot pretty much every year. Justin Rose, the same thing. Don't know if he'll be there this year. He probably won't because he'll be preparing for the U.S. Open, I would imagine. But so many of those top-notch golfers that originate from that area just fall in love with horse racing. And Lee Westwood is an owner. I remember he was playing in the Live tournament down in Mexico, and I got a chance to go to that tournament, and he was putting, and I called him over, and he did. He came right over. I introduced myself. I told him what we did and who I was, and of course, he didn't know who I was. I was a little disappointed in that. But He did talk about horse racing with me for about 5 minutes, and it was such a cool conversation. He was such a great guy. He was the type of person you felt like if you had him over to your house, you could just sit there and talk horse racing and golf all night long with him like you would with your buddies.
Never know who's going to be interested in horse racing. That's one of the best things about the track. It could be a golfer, it could be a professional baseball player, it could be just about anybody. It appeals to a large swath of people.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, good luck to Wesley over in Royal Ascot. Again, the meet beginning on Tuesday. It will run through Saturday, and Wesley well represented again this year. We'll get to a break. We'll come back and get you set for hour number 2, tell you what's coming up in hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed for Sales, Kentucky.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with a crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
To the 5/16 pole, Provenance being tackled by Litmus Test. 2.5 lengths to Acknowledge Me Please on the outside of Blacksmith at the top of the stretch. Provenance on the inside and Litmus Test the outside. Provenance, Litmus Test, locked in battle at the 3/16 pole, 4 lengths in front of Blacksmith, who's hammering away in third. At the 8th pole, and Litmus Test with Provenance. Litmus Test on the outside, taking the lead now. He kicks away from Provenance. Blacksmith is representing Late Danger. He's coming home strongly, but Litmus Test has a winning advantage. Litmus Test has defeated Blacksmith by just over a length. They were clear of Provenance and many lengths to Acknowledge Me Please.
I love the way Michael Rona calls horse races. I really do. And that was his call, the Low-Sale Futurity. Last year with Litmus Test getting the victory, the 3-2 morning line favorite in the Delaware Derby today, but he ain't running there. Instead, he's going to wait until the Affirmed coming up on Monday at Santa Anita. But Angela, that was supposed to be run on Thursday, but Santa Anita had a few issues.
Yeah, issues to say the least. I mean, they had to cancel Thursday and Friday because of some problems with the power, but hopefully they can get everything back together for closing day on Monday, and litmus test can get back on the beam a little bit later than expected.
That is going to be a major development when it pertains to today's Delaware Derby. And in just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Chris Sobocinski. He is with Delaware Park. He'll walk through the stakes races, including that Delaware Derby. You have the Delaware Oaks. It's a really good card. We'll talk to him in a few minutes to kick off hour 2. You're going to hear from trainer Cherie DeVoe talking about her experience since winning the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont Stakes. She joined me on Trainer Talk yesterday. We're going to bring in excerpt from that show coming up right around 9:20. And at 9:40, our Kentucky bred conversation focusing on Kentucky bred White Abarrio, who is pointing for the Stephen Foster, will be joined by his trainer, Saffie Joseph Jr., and his owner, Mark Cornett of C2 Racing Stable. They'll be here together, and they're going to talk about that stallion deal he just got. He'll be standing at Gainesway when his career is concluded.
Yeah, it's a popular thing going on right about this time of the year, but good to hear that he is going to land somewhere. I'll have some questions for them because we've met and talked before about White Abarrio.
The best thing about him going to stud in Kentucky is the fact that when you go to Lexington to see him, if you're a breeder, you'll have the chance to stop off at Tony's of Lexington and have an amazing steak dinner. And I tell you every week that Tony's, by far, the greatest steak, and I'm a steak and potatoes guy, the greatest steak I have ever had anywhere with all of our travels. The atmosphere, fantastic. The people are incredible. And Tony Ricci himself, a native of Italy, he started this, and he did it with the mantra that his family always used. There was always room for one more at our table. Well, sometimes that gets pushed to the limits, but they will always try to make room for you. They are always busy. If you're going to be in Lexington for any reason this summer, give them a call. Get your reservations now. Tony's of Lexington on Main Street, right behind Rupp Arena, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Angela, we have our poll question that we threw out there, which is more of a question of the day, if you will, and we're asking listeners, kind of engaging with listeners here this morning. I love doing this, where and how they're listening to the program this morning. So where are you listening from? Sean in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania says he's listening at work. He uses his phone to listen on the HRRN website. And if he misses it, he catches the podcast version later on Spotify. We appreciate that, Sean. Sally Ellen at Country Life Farm in Maryland said that this is her favorite Saturday morning spot. She actually sent us a picture of her sitting on her back porch, having breakfast, listening to the show. So we really appreciate that, Sally Ellen in Maryland. And then Kim in Burleson, Texas, emails the show and said she listens to our broadcast every Saturday morning on her way to work on her iPhone, and really appreciate that, Kim. She also gave us an answer to the impossible trivia question, but we'll have the answer for you coming up at 10:55 Eastern. Kim, I can't tell you if you're right yet. Just stay tuned until the end of the show. So people listening from all over.
It's nice to hear that everybody is having a good Saturday morning. Thank you for joining us to set up the weekend. And Kim, I can't believe that you would know that one off the top of your head. I sure hope that you get it right. I'm still a little bit stumped as to what the answer to that could be, but we'll find out a little bit later on.
Yeah, we're going to give you that question again in just a few minutes in the segment at the top of hour number 2. Also a reply here on our social media pages on X, Mojo Racing Partners, saying that they typically, speaking of the impossible trivia question, they typically are listening at the worldwide Mojo headquarters via the HRN website, listen live, and it's part of their Saturday morning routine. So, guys, we really appreciate it and appreciate your support of the impossible trivia question every week. We want to hear from you. Keep those coming. We have 2 more hours to update the poll question. Let us know where you are listening this morning and how you are listening to the show this morning. We love to hear from our listeners, so keep those responses coming.
Yes, definitely let us know where you are listening, and let me know how it is today wherever you are. It might be a factor. I thought, at least looking around, the weather might be more of a factor in the racing this weekend than it has been in a while. We've got pretty lucky in the last month or so, but I'm going to be looking around the country to see what it looks like today, and of course here, because we do have racing tonight. We'll see how everything does pan out, but let us know where you are tuning in from this morning.
Yeah, Canterbury Park. Canterbury is a racetrack I have not been to yet, Angela, and I promised you I'm going to make a trip to Canterbury to visit with you and to see all the great folks that make racing possible there. But it really is a lot of fun. From the outside looking in, it always seems like you and the team are always trying to have fun with anything you put together.
Oh, well, how are we supposed to, or how is anybody else supposed to have fun if we're not having fun with it? We got a couple of we got a couple of people there that have been there for a long, long time. So it's just very easy to get into the rhythm of things. And if you don't, they're there to help you. You need to get up there for sure. But I will definitely make the return trip to Kentucky just to see what's going on down there in the fall, maybe. But wherever you are, again, let us know in the poll question. I'm keeping an eye on things on Twitter, but however you can tell us, we'd love to know.
I don't know if you've heard, but there's an event that they call Breeders' Cup that's taking place in the fall in Kentucky.
Well, there's that. Yes, I suppose that would be a pretty good excuse to come down there. Maybe some live shows. Maybe people can come up and tell us exactly where they are because they're right next to us at the Breeders' Cup. That would be a good goal. We should really put that on the calendar now.
That would be fantastic. We actually have just about a minute or so left before we have to segue into hour number 2. And before we do that, though, I always say that people who follow us on social media at HRRN on X and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook and YouTube, that is the place to go. If you follow me at HRN Barron, it's probably one of the more boring follows that you're ever going to have in your entire life because all I tweet about is HRN and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is truly the only thing I do on social media. Angela, you are a completely on a different side of the fence with all of that. So I want our listeners to know how they can follow you because it's a much better follow than following me. How can they do it?
I don't know about that. I'm only available on X. If you find me on Facebook, if you find me on Instagram, that's not me. But on X, I am at Angela Hermann, my full name, 2 N's, 15. So if you want to follow along with that, we got everything from HRRN, Canterbury Park, if you're into the Minnesota Wild, if you're into Minnesota sports whatsoever. It's very entertaining, I'm sure, from the outside. Not so much as a fan, but that's where you can keep an eye on all of that.
And where exactly is Minnesota?
Oh, wow.
We were joking off air about this the other day. So, yeah, I actually do know where Minnesota is. So I'm good.
What a relief.
Yeah, what a relief. Shocker. Really, it's shocking. All right, we're going to get to this 10-second station ID. When we come back, we'll tell you all about hour 2, hour 3. Plenty of content coming your way, including Chris Sobocinski, who kicks it off with us next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3. Barron and Countess, Mike Penna, and Angela Hermann with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. 1 hour down, we got a chance to visit with Brian Skirka from Monmouth and Wesley Ward looking ahead to Royal Ascot in the first hour of the program. If you missed it, don't worry. You can check out the podcast after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern and listen at your leisure. You can do that on our website, horseracingradio.net. You can do that, too, on your favorite podcast platform. Wherever you listen to podcasts, type in Horse Racing Radio Network, and you can listen to this show and all the shows we bring your way every single week, including my one-on-one conversation on Trainer Talk yesterday afternoon with Cherie DeVoe, and it was fantastic. You're going to hear some of that coming up in the second hour of the show right around 9:20 Eastern, so stay with us for that particular, and it's something you won't want to miss because she is so real, so candid, and so honest. So we'll bring you a little short excerpt from that Trainer Talk conversation in just a little bit. Our Kentucky-bred conversation with Saffie Joseph Jr., Mark Cornett, talking about White Abarrio, comes your way at 9:40. 10 o'clock Eastern, we kick off hour 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance Hanson joins Angela and me to give you 3 races that you want to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History coming your way at 10:20. That is a fantastic story about a gentleman by the name of Polo Jim. You probably never heard the name, but Polo Jim, a former slave who journeyed north and became an assistant starter for New York racing. Wonderful story. Great angle from Kurt on this Saturday morning. And then I Asked the Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. They'll be with us 10:30 Eastern. So, Angela, we got some work to do still.
We got a lot of ground to cover. And gosh, we've already gone through an hour of this, and it seems like we've barely made any headway. We got a lot of work to do.
Well, we're going to do it right now as Chris Sobocinski joins us from Delaware Park. Big day for them. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on this morning. It's
a
excited. Beautiful day in Stanton, Delaware right now. I'm just hoping all the weather holds out and we continue this way because it's a gorgeous day for Delaware Derby Day.
It should be fantastic. And let's start with the Delaware Derby because a development coming out with Santa Anita rescheduling their Thursday card. I'm sure you're wishing they didn't have that power outage on Thursday.
Yes. But, you know, this is the racing industry. It's the sport of racing, and sometimes things happen. You just have to adapt, and that's what we kind of do here at Delaware Park every day. So you just have to roll the punches, give it your best shot, and just put out the best product you possibly can day in and day out. And sometimes things break your way, and sometimes they break the other way. So that's just the approach we kind of take here at Delaware. So it's not going to slow us down very much. We're going to still do well.
And it's a very good card. Top to bottom, it's fantastic. And what we're referring to is Litmus Test, who was the 3-2 morning line favorite in the Delaware Derby, has decided instead to bypass that race and go to California, stay in California, if you will, and run in the Affirm Stakes, which was rescheduled from Thursday now to Monday at Santa Anita. But this program, top to bottom, Chris, well done.
Yes, we're very proud of the car we put together, and we would have loved to have Litmus Test, but at the same time, you know, when you do these races, when you want to compete in the 3-year-old division with these races, it's a highly competitive division for racetracks. So sometimes those things happen, and even though Litmus Test is not in the Delaware Derby, it's still a great race.
What are some of the top storylines you're going to have your eye on this afternoon?
I tell you what, well, in the Delaware Derby, I'm just looking for that next horse to run a nice big race, to throw his hat into the ring, to be another contender in the 3-year-old division, to hopefully, you know, take a couple steps forward in a positive direction. So that's what I'm looking for in the Delaware Derby. But I tell you what, in one of our other races, the Cape Henlopen, I've been doing PR work here at Delaware Park for 40 years, and there's a horse in the Cape Henlopen that I'm gonna be actually rooting for. I try to stay objective and I don't let my emotions get with me, but the 10 Hall Monitor, trained by Blake Kelly, is a neat story for him because I spoke to Blake. He claimed this horse last year with the intention of running him longer and on the grass, and he also thought when the horse got older he'd get better. And all those things have happened, and the horse has steadily gotten better, and he's raced his way into this big stakes race and this opportunity. And it was just so cool because when I called Blake, his first reaction was, "What are you going to slam me for putting my horse in over my head?" I said, "Hell no." I said, I said, I was going to ask you, you were probably, when you brought this horse to Delaware Park this year, you probably couldn't wait for the Cape Henlopen. And it's just a neat story because he's like, you know what? I don't care. The horse deserves a shot. He's raced his way into it. And what's neat about it is, in every level of life, that's what life's about. You work hard, you take a chance, and you have an opportunity. And it would be really neat if that opportunity comes to fruition for that team. And I'm really rooting for him.
Well, that's an awesome local story. Is there, any other horse on the card that maybe grabbed your eye as a good local story? Is there anything else that maybe we haven't uncovered?
Sure. Jumping the Gun is in the Delaware, trained by Andy Simoff. He's a local guy. He's become the Delaware Park for decades, stable here at Delaware Park. And it's nice that he's got a shot to win one of our biggest races of the year because he's been supportive of Delaware Park racing for all the way probably back to the 1970s. So that's another compelling story. And it would be nice for Jumping the Gun to get her first graded stakes win at Delaware Park too.
And what adjustments do you make for a big day like this? Race so much during the summer and get ready for this. How does prep change for a big day like Derby Day as opposed to any other day of the week?
Oh, at a track like Delaware Park, that's a very good question. So the approach we basically take is that day in and day out racing, we try to put on the best product we can because that's as important when it comes to handle at the end of the year as a big race day. But when it comes to having a day like Delaware Derby Day or Del Cap Day, we've always approached it here at Delaware Park that, this is our opportunity to have a day where the nation's eyes are on us. Mm-hmm. And we know we don't get a whole lot of them, but we can get a few. And this is a perfect day of how that all could come together. And when we do get the opportunity and the nation's eyes are on us, we just try to put on the best product we can and make it as interesting as we possibly can. And it's also really neat, too, because in a lot of ways, Delaware is one of those tracks you don't hear about every day, day in and day out. And it's neat for the racing industry to get to share some of the stories that this track has given to the sport, just not recently, but all the way back to 1937 and the history of the track, which has a really deep and interesting history and tradition. So it gives people in the nation an opportunity to appreciate racing in the Mid-Atlantic, too, as well. So I'm very proud of that.
Chris, I was at one time a huge fan of Golden Eagle Farm, and they had some horses that I just fell in love with. And I remember when Yearly Report won the Delaware Oaks for Bob Baffert back in 2004. Just one of so many big names, but you remember that?
I remember that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why I was so much looking forward to Bob Baffert coming with Litmus Test and Cash Call. Just because one of our local writers wrote a story on Thursday, the day after the overnight came out, before we knew everything was happening. And he had a great angle on that story. Bob Baffert's won everything in racing except for the Delaware Derby. And the only race he's won at Delaware Park is the Delaware Oaks. So that's one of the things I'm going to miss is I was hoping if he did win the race, I wanted to get his reaction on how he felt like that he finally won the Delaware Derby.
That was such a cool horse. I mean, she was a special filly, but you think about the iconic names that have won that race. And even going back to Todd Pletcher with Adieu, and then there was Proud Spell and Careless Jewel and Blind Luck. You had that 3-year run with those horses that was just remarkable.
That Blind Luck year was the race that Haverty Grace showed that she had something.
Yeah.
That she was going to be a player. I remember that Delaware Oaks with Blind Luck and Haverty Grace. My first reaction was, wow, Haverty Grace really ran a big race. But then as time went on, I look back at it now like that was her coming out race.
Hard to believe.
And even going back into the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, the Oaks has been a phenomenal race. I mean, Gallant Bloom won the race in the 60s. And there was a streak. 19 horses that have won the Delaware Oaks have also won the Alabama, which is a neat little statistic that I like to brag about. But that race has had so much history and tradition. As a matter of fact, I know it's not Del Cap Day, but another little tidbit that people they kind of forget because it's lost to time. The Delaware Handicap was the first race in the country, and some articles say the world back in the 1950s, that actually offered the filly and mare division the first 6-figure purse in the history of the sport. And it was designed that way because the people that built Delaware Park were breeders, and they had a lot of fillies and mares, and they had their stakes schedule feature the fillies and mares, and they were one of the first tracks to do it. As a matter of fact, a slogan from a long time ago was, "With a filly and mare, go to Delaware." And the Delaware Oaks has always been a proud part of that tradition, that filly and mare tradition.
Well, it's a great race lined up for today. You talk about the history of Delaware, and obviously there is a lot of it. Are there any big surprises that stick out from this day? Any shocking results or anything that stick out in your mind from the history?
Well, I tell you what, one of my best memories was from a Del Cap day in 1995 when Bill Turner won the Del Cap with Night Facts. And that was before we had the infusion of purse money from the slot machines. And Del Cap was only worth like $125,000. And he won the race, and he was in the winner's circle. And he was with the gaggle of media that was covering the race. And the first thing he said was, "This is a race I always wanted to win." And I'm never going to forget thinking, oh my God, the guy won the Triple Crown, and he's saying the Delaware Handicap's a race he always wanted to win. And they explained why. He grew up in the area. He grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania, and he would come and watch the Delaware Handicaps. And the Delaware Handicap was his race when he was growing up and in his formative years. And it just really hit home. I mean, this was in 1995. So how long ago was that? 35 years ago. But it really was an important point in my life and my development and with my career, because it made me appreciate how much people in this region enjoy horse racing, and how important a track like Delaware Park is to a lot of important people in the industry because of that. And as I've gotten older, I've appreciated the responsibility that comes with trying to keep that tradition alive and that spirit alive. And that was one of my fondest and most memorable memories. And it's weird too, because if the horse was Nightfax, it was a nice horse, but she wasn't Haverty Grace or Blind Luck or Royal Delta or Songbird, but she may have been one of my favorite winners of the Delaware Handicap because of that.
You know, Chris, we were talking about the history of a race like the Delaware Oaks. How about the Obeah Stakes? That's the 8th race on the card today.
Oh man,
so much history there
right.
too.
Yeah, well, Obeah was the dam of Go for Juan.
Mm-hmm.
Obeah, in her own, when she was a racehorse, won the Delaware Handicap twice. And the big reason 30 years ago we decided to honor Obeah with the stakes race here at Delaware Park is because of Christiana Stables and her owner, Jane Lunger, who was a Delawarean, which is another person that's, we're all proud of here in Delaware with her accomplishments that she had when she owned racehorses. And the Christiana Stables, Delaware Park was their track. I mean, they hold the record for most Delaware Handicap wins. When I was a kid, I remember growing up, they had linkage run in the Bluegrass and won the Bluegrass, and they decided not to run in the Derby, to run in the Preakness, believe it or not.
Wow.
And that was your Gato del Sol one.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran linkage in the Preakness, and he ran second to Aloma's Ruler with Cowboy Jack Canal was a jockey.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I'm starting to talk about things that probably are not relevant.
It's great to take a walk through history.
I love it.
It was Jane Lunger and Obeah. That's trying to keep that tradition alive, and that's us being proud of those connections and the things they accomplished on a national stage.
Well, it sounds like
and
you're
it's
very
sad too with Go for Juan's tragic incident. She would have definitely been running in the Delaware Handicap, I'm sure, regardless of what the purse would have been, just because I know how much Jane Lunger took pride in winning her races in her own backyard.
gone too soon. That was too bad. I'm sorry. Well, let's shift lanes just for a second. And I mean, you have this great card put up. And how can people get involved? What sort of promotions do you have going on with it? Is there a contest? How can they come out? When can they come out? Tell me more.
First race is 12:20, but the doors are already open, which is a neat thing here at Delaware Park. Our doors are we're open 24/7 since the casino's attached right to the racetrack. And people can actually come out anytime and watch the morning workouts anytime they want. And a lot of people do. So that's neat. But today we got one of the things that we tried to do here at Delaware is not only do we have some of the best jockeys and trainers competing on our card today, but we also try to make it fun for the casual fans. So a big thing we're doing is a jockey autograph session. It's going to be going all day, and the jockeys that aren't participating in certain races will be signing autographs, which is always fun and it's always neat. Anybody that's here, I suggest going down and just watching the interaction between them and the fans, especially the children that they sign autographs for. It's neat the way that all plays out. But we're also giving away hats and T-shirts as part of the day, and we're going to have a local Delawarean DJ out on our track apron playing music. So it's going to be a nice festive day. We have a special drink called the Delaware Peach Julep, and we have a brewery here at Delaware Park, and we have a special beer to celebrate the Delaware Derby. And for the bettors, I think we got everything covered because we have a total of 6 pick 5s and 2 of them are all stakes. And we have 4 pick 4s, and one of those pick 4s is an all-turf pick 4. So I think we got something. I think we got something for everybody today. I'm hoping whoever comes to the races or bet on the races at Delaware Park, they find something that they like, whether it's a wagering menu that offers a lot of different types of wagers, or some fun, casual, celebrating activities out in the Grove or on the apron.
Chris, you and the team, Jed Doro, everybody associated with Delaware, really did a fantastic job with this card. We look forward to more big cards down the road. Really appreciate the visit this morning, my friend. Enjoy the day.
Thank you for having me on. I look forward to coming back, and thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
You got it. Chris Sobocinski with us here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Big day at Delaware. Big day for listeners who are chiming in, trying to guess this morning's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. Angela, what is it?
Which 18th century thoroughbred, sired by Eclipse, had a name that was 11 letters long, with 9 of those letters being the same vowel? No Googling.
Get your mojo working. We'll have the answer for you at 10:55 Eastern Time. When we come back, you'll hear from trainer Cherie DeVoe as she looks back on her victories in the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont Stakes. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
Horse racing is here for our 89th season of live thoroughbred racing every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday at Delaware Park and Casino. Join us for Delaware Derby and Oaks Day on Saturday, June 13th. There will be an all-stakes pick 5 and an all-turf pick 3. Enjoy live racing, food trucks, vendors, and much, much more. Plus, don't miss the t-shirt and hat giveaways while supplies last. More information at DelawarePark.com. Join us today.
There's more money for Maryland breds. The out-of-state bonus program is back for the summer of 2026, with Maryland breds earning bonuses running in Virginia and Delaware July 3rd to August 23rd, when Maryland is dark. An increased bonus pool of $750,000 is available for Breeders' and Stallion Awards, and an increased bonus pool of $700,000 for Owner and Developer Awards. And remember to save the date for Maryland Million Summerfest, June 20th at Laurel Park, with more racing opportunities for Maryland Million sired horses. For more information, visit MarylandThoroughbred.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're at the top of the stretch, and it's Nitrogen in front by 3 lengths. Fully subscribed, trying her best, but not getting close to Nitrogen. Nitrogen is clearly still the best. She is on top and is absolutely romping home in the Ogden Phipps. Nitrogen trounces them by more than 10 lengths. A tight photo for second between Fully Subscribed and Bless the Broken. Regeld was 4th in the Ogden Phipps, presented by Ford. What a performance from Nitrogen.
What a performance indeed. Frank Miramati had the call of that Grade 1 race, the Ogden Phipps. Nitrogen just annihilating the competition. One of 3 Grade 1 wins for dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Casse over the last weekend. And it was sensational the way that she did it. And you could debate which is more impressive, Mark Casse winning 3 Grade 1 races in 2 days, or what Cherie DeVaux did, winning the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont Stakes with Golden Tempo. We'll do that, as a matter of fact. That's a question we'll have for Dale and Tim coming up at 10:30 Eastern during I Ask, They Answer. But as I mentioned, Cherie DeVaux took time to join me on yesterday's Trainer Talk show, which you can go back and listen to that podcast, all presented by our friends at Fasig-Tipton. And I wanted to bring you a piece of that conversation here this morning, too, because she was incredible. And I started this question by asking her, what words best describe the past 5 weeks and what that has been like for her?
Overwhelming, surreal, and then, busy. I will say very busy.
Maybe throw amazing in there too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, amazing.
I thought that was wonderful. That was, of course, after the Belmont Stakes when you were joined on Fox by Tom Rinaldi. And the one word that kept coming out was amazing. And I thought, wow, what a perfect way to sum it up, because it is the perfect word for what you've experienced.
It has, and I'm still trying to sit with all of it. The Kentucky Derby, I've never had the opportunity to run in it, and I didn't allow myself to even think that we would win the race. So I was, in a good way, shocked, but wasn't really expecting the whirlwind of what's happened, in the subsequent weeks. And then you get into the Belmont, and I put a lot more pressure on myself going into that race, just because I felt like we had to back up the Derby performance. So it was definitely amazing afterwards, and just been able, can take a break and take a few breaths to, try to let all of the enormity of it really sit and set in.
You just used another great word, whirlwind. What does that whirlwind look like for a trainer after you win the Kentucky Derby?
And I think it was just everyone's excited because I was the first female, so I'm going to put that out there. But I definitely wasn't anticipating having to go to New York City for on less than 24 hours notice, and going in there and doing all day interviews. And I literally had like 30 minutes to have lunch that Monday. And that was followed up with a lot of other media outlets. So, almost the entire 5 weeks, it has been training the horses, working, doing our normal duties as a trainer, which are busy. And then in any free moment, trying to schedule, interviews and be as accommodating as possible. But, it's hard because everyone's excited, and we just did this big thing, and we're also training into another race, as well as getting a boatload of 2-year-olds in. So it's been a lot, but it's been quite profound how excited everyone's been, and how exciting, I've read some stuff on social media about people who don't really follow horse racing, and somehow the story one way or another of Golden Tempo has resonated with them, and have become hooked to our sport. So, that's why I've taken the time to do as much as I can. But, with that being said, we have a major stable to operate, and I'm just glad that I can focus back on that mainly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question next, because you've instantly become the face of a sport, the face of an industry. And that's wonderful, but you're also running your own business, and that has to continue. How do you balance those two things?
The training the horses and my business it's number one. And so the part that has kind of been put on the back burner is time for myself. And that has worn on me. I'm not going to lie. Just having time to take care of myself and, do the things I enjoy doing. So, I'm made a comment that we're going to scale way back before the Belmont. I said, win, lose, or draw, I have to get myself taking care of myself more, because it's just hard. And, I put a hard stop at 6:30, but I've been up since 4:30. So, trying to running horses and, like I said, the task of running the business, but I've taken my personal time and used that. So, coming out of the last 5 weeks, I really had to be self-aware enough to make that decision and those boundaries.
After the Derby win, I visited with Jose Ortiz, and we talked about some of the things that he was experiencing after winning the Kentucky Derby. And one of the things he described as being the coolest moment was when he got to walk out onto the pitcher's mound at Yankee Stadium with you and throw out the first pitch. Tell me about that experience first, and then describe some of the other things you've done that were really neat that you would have never gotten a chance to do if you hadn't won the Kentucky Derby.
Well, I'd have to say that is the most special. And it's because when I've been a lifelong Yankees fan, and I remember as a kid going and sitting up in the cheap seats because that's what we could afford. And I've been to other games with a lot better seats. But, standing out on the field and just having that moment to just reflect on life of where you came from and where you are. So that was fun. And I didn't shank the ball, and it made it to the plate, which was my goal, is just not to embarrass myself. So that was, but there's a lot more things actually coming up because I've been too busy to do too much, but I got a message of somebody from System of a Down, because I was singing their song before the Derby, and they've invited me to a concert in October if I can make it. Then I was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in sports. So yes. That'll be fun. It'll be interesting because there's a little party for that, and it'll be interesting to see who makes that and get to meet some other interesting members of the sports community. So, it's stuff like that. Being in Sports Illustrated and having my story featured there. It's been fun, but you're asking me and putting me on the spot, and there's been so much that I can't even sit and tell you one over the other.
Have you fully embraced your new role as the face of the sport and an ambassador for the sport, Cherie?
Again, not really. And I only know how to be true to myself, and I think that works in my favor for things like this because I'm speaking our truth. I'm speaking my truth in the industry. It can be trying to find the right word. Being recognized out in public is something that I'm not sure I'm ever going to get used to, and I'm getting 1/10 of what like real celebrities are, but it's kind of like that's a little bit weird for me, because I'm just trying to eat dinner and this is the truth. I was eating dinner after the Derby, and there's a person that walks up with tears in their eyes, and I just kind of am blankly looking because I'm like, I don't really know how to handle this. So, we'll have to just figure it out. It's all a learning curve.
A lot is made, and rightfully so, about you being the first female trainer to win the Kentucky Derby and then joining Jenna Antonucci with winning the Belmont Stakes. And that's all wonderful. But you and I have talked before, and, you are one of the top trainers in the sport. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or you're a woman, you are among the top trainers in the sport today. Have you had any young ladies reach out to you and try to get in touch with you and say, hey, this is so cool. I love your story. I want to train racehorses. Has that happened yet?
Well, yes, it's definitely happened. And it's just, and more on the lines of you've inspired me to go out and do something that's outside of my comfort zone. And I have great respect for that. Again, it's not something that I've sought out to do, but I do feel like I have a responsibility to uphold that position. And if I can be myself and what I'm doing inspires others, then, that's another bonus added on to the whole story.
Yeah, another bonus indeed. And Angela, I just love how open and honest and candid Cherie DeVoe is when you get a chance to visit with her in that particular setting.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that you want out of somebody who's going to be talking to people who have never seen a horse race before. Just really getting a straightforward view into what it's like to get that kind of horse, to the race and what your daily routine is like, and just really explain it all and try to do it with grace. It's not easy, I'm sure. And I would love to be in her shoes, but at the same time, that is so much to be taking on in those shoes. I hope that Cherie is enjoying the ride, because I know that trying to keep one eye on your stable and still trying to enjoy the high of success has got to be close to impossible. But I'm sure trying to get to that point has been a lot of fun for her.
And the obligations that come along with that success, as you heard her talk about the various things that she has gotten the chance to do, and still some of the things that she is going to do going forward. And all of that's very positive for the sport. But Cherie would be the first to tell you, and I remember visiting with her last year on Trainer Talk, along with her sister, who was also a trainer. They have completely opposite personalities. Her sister is much more outgoing, whereas Cherie is more introverted. She's more private. And now she has to be out there in the public eye, and she is the voice and the face of this industry and of this sport.
And she knows that, you sign up for that when you train horses that good. So trying to adjust to that and really get your personality out there while still being true to yourself and being true to how you train horses is, it's just cool. It's great to get a great perspective on her, because without those sort of horses, like you mentioned, she's a little bit more private and to herself. You may not know how all of that works. You may not get a chance to know Cherie this way. And I'm really glad that we do. And I'm sure that it won't be the last time that we go on some sort of fun ride with her. But getting to see it through her eyes this time around with this particular horse has been a treat. And did you see that now Golden Tempo's younger sibling by Nyquist has been named Imperial Tempo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the way, she also had some wonderful things to say about Golden Tempo and about jockey Jose Ortiz, and about the connections involved with getting Golden Tempo to where he is and making him the Golden Tempo we now know. That was later in the conversation. But again, the podcast is now out there on our website, horseracingradio.net, and on your favorite podcast platform. Just type in Trainer Talk and you'll be able to find that one with Cherie DeVoe. Just fantastic stuff from her. We're asking you this morning in our question of the day to let us know where you're listening to the show and how you are listening. And Eric sends in via email. He said he's listening on Sirius XM on his phone while walking his dog on a perfect sunny day in Cleveland, Ohio. And Clem says he's listening in Norton, Massachusetts on his phone. So Clem, we appreciate that. And Eric, appreciate you being along for the ride as well. There are other responses we're getting on our social media pages. We'll try to update you on those later in the program as well. But Angela, here we go. People from all over the country representing HRRN Nation this morning.
Thank you very much for coming along with the ride. There's only so much we can fit into a few hours, but we'll try to get as much as possible to set you up for a winning day. And we're always glad to have you along with this Saturday morning show.
Couple good guests coming up in the next segment, too. Trainer Saffie Joseph Jr., owner Mark Cornett of C2 Racing Stable. They'll talk about their star, White Abarrio, pointing for the Stephen Foster at Churchill Downs. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There's more money for Maryland Breds. The out-of-state bonus program is back for the summer of 2026, with Maryland Breds earning bonuses running in Virginia and Delaware July 3rd to August 23rd, when Maryland is dark. An increased bonus pool of $750,000 is available for Breeders' and Stallion Awards, and an increased bonus pool of $700,000 for Owner and Developer Awards. And remember to save the date for Maryland Million Summerfest, June 20th at Laurel Park, with more racing opportunities for Maryland Million sired horses. For more information, visit MarylandThoroughbred.com.
Monmouth Park is back with racing every weekend now to September 13th, plus Memorial Day and Labor Day Monday.
Haskell Preview Day is June 13th, followed by Haskell Day on July 18th. Exciting new wagers include a $3 all-turf pick 3, $3 late pick 3, and a $5 late double, all with player-friendly 15% takeout. Monmouth also offers the country's premier handicapping contest schedule, fixed odds wagering, and a brand new sportsbook. Go to monmouthpark.com for more information.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Here we go. Sovereignty on the inside. Journalism right there, perched to his outside. And White Abarrio in with a good chance. 3 wide as they come off the turn here. Sovereignty on the inside. Journalism. White Abarrio confidently handled by Irad Ortiz, and he goes to the lead now. Sovereignty has given way to second. Journalism third. 16th to go. It's White Abarrio's win. It's his Oakland handicap, and White Abarrio, an awesome champion, a veteran of the game. How cool is he? White Abarrio defeats Sovereignty in Journalism in an epic Oakland handicap.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna and Angela Hermann with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was Matt Dinnerman with the call of Kentucky-bred White Abarrio running away from fellow Kentucky-bred and reigning Horse of the Year Sovereignty and everybody else to win the Oakland Handicap in mid-April. And he now sets his sights on the June 27th Stephen Foster at Churchill Downs. This segment presented by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development and Breeders Incentive Funds, which paid a record $20 million in awards to breeders participating in the KBIF program last year for racing in 2025. And a special treat for you this week, as we are now joined by White Abarrio's owner, Mark Cornett of C2 Racing, and his trainer, Saffie Joseph Jr. Mark, I'm going to start with you. First of all, congratulations on what was announced this week, the stud deal at Gainesway.
Yeah, we're very, very excited to get involved with Gainesway and Mr. Beck. I mean, Gary, thanks to Gary Barber, our partner on the horse, he was instrumental in getting it done. And, you know, it's been a long time coming, but we're looking forward to his next shot here in the breeding shed and getting some of his babies running and seeing that happen. So it's pretty exciting times.
After he won the Oakland Handicap, social media blew up asking, why on earth does this horse not have a stud deal yet? What took so long?
Well, I think a couple of things did. One, people, the farms wanted to knock the fact that he was by race day, which, obviously he's a grandson of Tappet, so out of Individual Mare, but that was one of the big knocks. The second thing was, we made a business decision, basically, my brother and I and Gary, that we thought we might be able to run out more on the racetrack with the purse structures on a few things with this horse that we're convinced the horse had a lot of miles left on him, and we were right. And, we're just happy the way this thing turned out right here. So,
Saffie, I mentioned you're with us too, Saffie Joseph Jr. You know White Abarrio as well as anybody. How impressive was that win at Oakland?
Good morning, Mike. Very impressive. As I said, it was a grade 2, but for me, all those big wins are important, but I put it up there as probably the leader, most exciting win that I've ever had as a trainer for our team, and appreciative of the ownership group for having the horse, for getting back the horse, obviously, just for the journey that we've been on. It's been a wild one, up and down, and they stayed the course. When we needed to go slow, we went slow, and then when we needed to pick it up, we did. And so it's easy when you're winning to do those things, but it's a lot harder to make those decisions when things aren't going right. When things are going right, decisions come much easier. And when things aren't going right, sometimes you can get flustered and you make the wrong decisions or make rash decisions. And for them to stay the course and stuff, it worked all of that, especially with Sovereignty and Journalism, 2 top-class horses, and how the race materialized, where all 3 horses fired and had no excuse. It was to come out on top that day it was very exciting.
Hi, guys. Angela Hermann here. I have talked to both of you, especially about White Abarrio, but take me back to Pegasus World Cup Day, because I know that was such a thrilling day, especially for you, Saffie. I mean, that was the start off of his year. What did you see that day that made you think the Oaklawn Handicap was going to be as exciting as it was for him? And really, how was the start off to his year?
I mean, that day was a relief. It was a relief, obviously, because you're coming off the Breeders' Cup where the vets have scratched your horse going to the gate. After that, you have to question everything. You have to overthink it to a certain degree because you want to make sure that everything's right. And it's not the right approach to train a horse when you're overthinking it. You're supposed to almost train observation and decision and be confident in your decision. With it's such a high-profile horse, and you have people give you an opinion that you don't necessarily agree with, then you have to make sure that you have many different people look at a horse. And every time you have someone look at a horse, you're going to get a different opinion. So it just took to go through all the hoops and stuff and to see the horse. I mean, you're extra cautious because it's in the world today. If anything happens, you're going to say, well, hey, the horse was crashed. So God forbid, it can happen to any horse. A horse get injured. Let alone that one that's been scratched. So that added pressure and run that day that we had to like go through so many hoops. So we almost didn't have the right preparation as far as standpoint because you're just making sure that every base is covered on. You're not almost your judgment is clouded if that makes sense. So it was a relief to get through that day, and then from that day to Oakland, it was fun because now you were on the right path. You knew your horse was as good as ever, and on that day, he proved to be actually on something was better than ever.
Well, now he's headed to the Stephen Foster June 27th. He'll get a rematch with Sovereignty. He'll face off with Magnitude Baeza. That's shaping up to be arguably the race of the year so far, certainly in the older horse division. Mark, as the owner, how fired up do you get for big days and big matchups like that?
Well, I've been doing this so long. I try not to get too high and too low, but I tell you what, when you see the lineup, and Churchill obviously did a good job recruiting the horses, but B, they upped the purse to $2 million, so that helps everybody too. So, but it's just an exciting time to be involved. And one thing I'd like to say is thank everybody for keeping the horses in training. I mean, you can see the difference it's already made in early in this year and the excitement for this group of horses. It's just a big deal, I think, for the industry. And I hope more owners choose to go this direction.
I think it's great that you keep the horses going and that you get involved with different horses too. I remember following another member of your stable, Nautical Star, quite closely. What do you look for when you're searching for a horse, either at the sales or a horse that's already raced? What makes your list? Is it specific to a certain track or a certain theory? What do you look for?
No, I mean, C2, we primarily focus on acquiring horses that have run. We like to take a lot of the risk out of it. And do that, and that's pretty much what our forte. But there's a lot of things. I mean, it's we look for mismanagement of horses. If they've run a while, they could be running at the wrong distance, the wrong surface, the wrong circuit. Trainers, they have their strengths and weaknesses, so we look at that as well. If we think we can switch a trainer, maybe turf trainers doing a sprinter or something of that nature, we can do that. So there's a lot of things we look for. We look at speed figures, rag numbers, and all of that. So there's a lot of things, videos, etc. So a lot of things we look at, but primarily what we focus on is 80% of our horses we buy are the ones that have already run.
Saffie, what are the odds on tears flowing down your face if White Abarrio wins the Stephen Foster?
I don't know. As Mark said, you try to balance it where you don't want to think about it too much. But I mean, every day I've been dreaming about him winning the Stephen Foster. Not dreaming as in like you just go through your head the whole day. You're commentating the race in your head, whether you're in the shower, whether you're relaxing a little bit at home. That's what keeps you going in this game. You know what I mean? So I've run the race probably a lot of scenarios in my head many times, and each time we've come out victorious. So obviously that's how I want it to be, and hopefully it would be like that. I mean, it's just the group of horses, as Mark said. It's amazing that all these horses have stayed in training, and there's a big following for each horse. I mean, Sovereignty last year, I'm a fan of him now, and last year I watched him win the Travers, and I was in awe of him, and just he's a magnificent horse. And for our horse to do what he did and beat him at 7, it just shows how good this horse is good too, and for how long he's done it. And you're appreciative of a horse. You know this is his final year running, and you're just trying to enjoy the moment, and win, lose, or draw. You just want him to show up and run his best. And these horses, they could change the results on any day. And in other words, if we were to go there and run second, hey, our competitive nature would be that you lost, but we're not going to feel disappointed. I mean, and that's what's going to happen. The trip's going to be important for all these races, and it's going to be riders' races. There's not going to be a lot of horses, and hopefully on the day, we feel like if we show our best, we can get a job done, and we'll see if tears come or not. I mean, hopefully.
Oh, they're coming.
They
1 to 9. I have no doubt. Saffie, what's White Abarrio showing you that gives you the confidence he's sitting on another big effort when we get to June 27th?
Everything. Just the way he's carrying, his mentality, how he's training, his work on Thursday was very good, and it's when he normally fires those kind of works, he tends to run his A game. And with horses, you never know, so you just try to follow and listen as much as possible. On everything that we're seeing normally indicates that he's going to run a top race, and that's all you want when you run horses, that they go there to come back safe and sound, and they fire their shot. And whatever the result's going to be, that's part of life, and you have to accept it. So we feel like he's showing all the good signs. I think the GOAT, honestly, he's run twice with the GOAT, the Pegasus on the Oakland Handicap, and I think that's helped him a lot. Like, I just see a horse that has a different kind of demeanor, and when the demeanor that he has right now is a demeanor that you want in every horse, and hopefully he stays like that. We got a long time to go. Hopefully he stays like that.
Okay, so keep an eye out for the GOAT. Now, Mark, I want to ask you guys, I mean, Saffie gets his hands on every horse, he keeps an eye on everything, knows everything about every member of the stable. You obviously do your homework in finding new members of the stable. Now, what's your guys' working relationship like?
Boy, I tell you what, we probably talk 10 to 15 times a day. We probably text 10 to 15 times a day.
Oof.
Communication with the way we run our stable and manage our stable, information is critical, because we can't make the right decisions managing these horses without accurate information. Saffie's so good at doing that. So we spend a lot of time discussing, mapping out strategies. I might have a game plan for a horse, so we'll run through that and make sure that we're all on the same page, and so we can train the horse properly for the goal we have for each horse. So I think it's a very special relationship.
Well, to date, White Abarrio has won 11 of 26 races, more than $8.4 million in career earnings. And again, looking to add to that total coming up June 27th beneath the TwinSpires of Churchill Downs. Mark, really appreciate the visit. Saffie, appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy at this time of the morning. Guys, good luck in just a couple of weeks at Churchill Downs.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
You got it. And congratulations, by the way, to both of those gentlemen on that stud deal, with White Abarrio going to be standing at Gainesway upon the conclusion of his racing career. But he has some big goals over the next couple of months set for him.
Oh, and I've got so many more questions for them, too.
I know.
What do you think White Abarrio's babies are going to be like? Who's the next White Abarrio? I got questions about members of their stable. So grateful for their time and the insight onto him. We'll let the horse do the rest of the talking, I suppose.
Yeah, we're coming up on a commercial break. We couldn't keep him any longer. We'll have to revisit that, bring them back onto the program, especially Mark with those questions, because he is fired up, and he should be, about this very, very talented son of race day. A record $20 million in awards was paid to breeders participating in the Kentucky Thoroughbred Breeders Incentive Fund program last year for racing in 2025. KBIF has provided more than $250 million to breeders of Kentucky breds, winning eligible races worldwide since the program was implemented in 2005. Kentucky remains one of the leading racing jurisdictions, paying out $239 million in combined association purse and Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Funds for an average of more than $112,000 per race and an average field size of 8.8 in 2025. For more information on thoroughbred racing and breeding in Kentucky, visit KentuckyBreds.com or register KBIF.com. We'll be back to take a look at a date or two in racing history and get you ready for Hour 3 next on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Ms. Fernandez, what are those tiny things?
Those are what we call amoebas. You can only see them through a microscope.
Wow.
Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators. But right now, there's a funding crisis in public schools. Millions of kids go to schools that don't have funding for books, computers, and so much more just because of where they live. You can help change that. Donor Shoes is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You choose which supplies to support. You could provide first graders with pencils and paper, or other students with their first chapter books, help a music class get a guitar.
You could even supply a classroom like mine with a science project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow.
To learn more, please visit DonorsChoose.org. That's DonorsChoose.org. Choose students. Shape the future.
I'm 54, so basically, it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save, even in your 50s, can really make a difference.
Well, right now, saving seems hard to wrap my head around. Plus, with the way this year's been going...
Hey, listen, it's okay. You still got this. Just go to aceyourretirement.org. It's an online tool from AARP that can help you get your retirement savings on track no matter your age. It's free and only takes about 3 minutes.
I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, at aceyourretirement.org, you'll chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a personalized plan and tips to help boost your retirement savings. Tips that are easy to understand and tailored to your lifestyle.
I like that too.
Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Just head to aceyourretirement.org and make your plan to start saving for retirement.
Thanks.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Dear Vet Ticks, it was nice to spend the night with my daughter and other veterans. It's so humbling to attend an event when you feel appreciated.
I had a wonderful time with my family. Thank you for the memories, Vet Ticks.
Dear Vet Ticks, thank you for a great experience and for your support of the military and veterans.
Thank you so much, Vet Ticks. Our family has gone through a lot the last few years, and this gave us a nice break.
Every empty seat at a concert, game, or special event is a missed opportunity to say thank you to a veteran or a service member. By giving your extra tickets to Vet Ticks, you'll help America's heroes reduce stress, strengthen family bonds, and create a truly happy memory that will last a lifetime. So when you really want to say thank you for your service, give the experience, give the memory. Vet Ticks. Give something to those who gave. For more information on how you can make a difference, go to vettix.org.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Silver Charm to the front, on the inside, Freehouse, on the outside, Captain Budget. It's Captain Budget on the outside, Silver Charm at the rail, those two to the wire. Here's the finish, Silver Charm by a neck with Gary Stevens. Captain Budget on the outside, second by 5, and Freehouse was third.
That's Dave Johnson with the call, the 1997 Kentucky Derby involving Silver Charm, the winner. It was June 13th, 1999. Yes, today the anniversary of Silver Charm, who won the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness in 1997 and then came back the following year, took the Dubai World Cup. He retired on this day in 1999 after finishing fourth in the Stephen Foster Handicap at Churchill. Silver Charm retired with earnings of $6,944,369, and he won 12 of his 24 starts. He's now at Old Friends, still out there doing his thing in the paddock at Old Friends. Pretty cool stuff, Angela.
Well, yeah, and he still gets his treats ground up for him a certain way. He is still the most popular resident out there at Old Friends. Yeah, exactly. He should get the Cadillac treatment no matter what it is. And I'm kind of bummed that I did miss his initial Triple Crown run, but my goodness, what he contributed and the fans that he brought to it. It was hard not to watch him and want to root for him. Just the competitive spirit that he had, right down to the Classic. He really put it on the line every time. Hard not to love a racehorse like that.
So many of our listeners have taken time to weigh in on our question of the day. We're asking you where you're listening to today's show and how you're listening. We have a few more replies on social media we have to get to here on our X page. Bert says he's listening to the show on a bike ride in the Indianapolis area on Sirius XM. Appreciate that, Bert. Terrence says he's listening in, let's see if I get it right, Shakopee, Minnesota, on the phone. I knew you were going to call me out if I got it wrong. And then Steve said listening in LaGrange, Kentucky on ESPN 680. Same for Chris, who's listening in Louisville. Guys, we really appreciate it, and thanks for being with us here on this Saturday morning.
Yes, thank you. And Steve, dabbling angler, have you heard of Minnesota? Come on up and listen live sometime. Thank you so much for tuning in this Saturday morning. I hope everybody is a winner who's listened to some of the good stuff this morning.
We ain't done yet. 1 hour to go. 2 hours in the books, 1 to go. Hour 3 comes your way next. Stay with us. It begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play with Vance Hanson. That's straight ahead after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Golden Tempo from last to first has to fend off Commandment in the final strides. Golden Tempo pulls away late. Golden Tempo has won the Belmont Stakes. Commandment ran lights out in second. Renegade was third. And Cherie DeVoe writes another chapter in her outstanding story.
And finally kicks away in the Delaware Oaks with a massive kick and leads by 2. The posse's trying to close in, including Paris Lily, Kinsey Queen, and Margie's Intention, but Fondly had a dazzling win in the Delaware Oaks today.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Domestic product second. C Streak is third with a furlong to go. Javier Castellano asking Tuscan Sky to finish, and he finishes full of run. Tuscan Sky in the Spendthrift Farm colors, romping home to win the Pegasus, presented by Naira Bets.
And Notional has taken the lead from Gotcha Gold with a furlong to run. Gotcha Gold trying to fight back though. Notional still there. Gotcha Gold's not done yet. He's battling on from the rail. It's Notional and Gotcha Gold. Notional's got the lead and he's getting away now. And Notional and Joe Bravo win the Salvatore Mile.
Now here's Mike Penna and Angela Hermann.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Baron and Countess with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern, and really excited for the final hour of the show. 1 week removed from more history being made in the Belmont Stakes with Golden Tempo, Cherie DeVoe, Jose Ortiz, the Phipps, Vinny Viola. What a combination. What a race that was. We touched on it earlier in the program, but it really was special for horse racing, and the momentum that the sport has coming off of that race is just incredible right now. And if you missed Trainer Talk yesterday afternoon, my conversation one-on-one with trainer Cherie DeVoe, you'll want to go back and listen. She was outstanding and so candid and so open about what she is dealing with now since bursting on to the national spotlight and becoming the voice and the face of an industry and an entire sport. Go back and listen to the podcast. She was great.
It can just go a number of different ways with how things, get presented to people, how they handle it and how popular they are, how demanding it is. She has taken it all in stride, and it's very nice to hear that things have gone so well. Golden Tempo, I thought myself included, maybe didn't get the flowers that he should have, so to speak, coming out of the Derby, but to hear the journey that those two have gone on together is pretty special.
You know what else is special? Our first guest in hour number 3. Vance Hanson is going to join us to kick it off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, coming your way at 10:20, and at 10:30, Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will join us for I Ask, They Answer in the final segment of today's show. But without further ado, we say good morning to Vance Hanson and the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
How great was that Belmont last weekend?
It was a terrific result for horse racing, as you just said. Golden Temple now has 2/3 of the Triple Crown. He's in the pole position for champion 3-year-old, and he's going to be awful tough to beat in the Travers going forward.
Is there any shot, Vance? Now, he's going to take the sovereignty route for the summer. He's going to go Jim Dandy and Travers. If he were to follow in Sovereignty's footsteps, win those 2 races, is he now a legitimate Horse of the Year player based on those results?
He's certainly in the discussion, although I would have to say that the older male dirt division is so loaded top to bottom. He would literally need to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, I think, this year, given the depth of the older horse division to be Horse of the Year.
Yep, I agree. It is stacked. And that Stephen Foster coming up at Churchill is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Sovereignty, White Abarrio, Magnitude, even Baeza, he had a rough trip coming back in the Ali Sheba. I mean, you can't even throw him out. So it's going to be an outstanding race and one of the great highlights of the summer, I think.
Well, my friend, I am excited to talk about the 3 races you have chosen for our listeners this morning. They come from 2 different racetracks, Delaware Park and Monmouth, and we're going to begin with the 7th at Delaware. Then we'll go to Monmouth for race 10 and back to Delaware for race number 12. We'll take these in order of post times. The Robert Dick Memorial, that grade 3, mile and 3/8 on the turf at Delaware is race number 7. That's the first race you've chosen. What did you like about this one?
Well, there's going to be a heavy favorite in here in Bells for trainer Miguel Clement. And granted, she does look pretty tough here, especially if she runs back to her win last summer in the Flower Bowl. I'm going to take a shot against her, though, and go with the second choice on the morning line. That's number 4, Alluring Angel. She's been rather inconsistent since joining the Belmont barn last summer, but she did show some class last fall, going this distance, finishing a good 3rd in the Weah Stakes at Aqueduct, and then winning the Long Island at a decent price of nearly 8-1. I think I like Alluring Angel in this a little bit more. Just simply because she has a bit more tactical speed in a race that really is lacking much of it, and I'm willing to throw those races at Gulfstream out. She just was totally off form in those 2 races in December and January. She's back rested, and like I said, she's got a little bit more tactical foot, and hopefully she can get the jump on Belza when the real running starts.
You did mention a relative lack of pace in here. So what do you do with the 2, Storm Miami? With Luis Saez being on her with some speed that she's shown at times. Do you think that she's the one that they have to catch, and can you use her since she'll be a bit of a price?
Yeah, I think Alluring Angel will be sitting right off of Storm Miami. I mean, Storm Miami also nearly won the Sheep's Head Bay last time against a no-show Sammy Joe, almost leading all the way. I don't think Storm Miami, though, is going to be able to get away with splits as slow as she showed in the Sheep's Head Bay, 52 for the half and 18 and change for 6 furlongs. I don't see the pace being that pedestrian here. So, and she really hasn't won beyond like a mile and a 16th in her career. So she might have been a little bit opportunistic in the Sheep's Head Bay. I think Alluring Angel has a better shot of outstaying her here.
Vance, you know what intrigues me about this 7th race at Delaware, we're talking about the Robert G. Dick Memorial, is that of the six entrants in here, not a single one has ever raced over this turf course. Very unusual.
It is, and if anybody watches Delaware Park, it looks like their turf course is really lush and thick, and I'm not sure how that often plays. I would say it's kind of a closer-friendly turf course for the most part. So, yeah, it's very interesting that all of these entrants will be seeing this grass course for the first time.
All right, number 4, Alluring Angel, the top pick for Vance Hanson to kick off this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. 5-2 on the morning line in race 7 at Delaware. Let's move over to Monmouth again, taking these in order of post times. Race number 10 at Monmouth, that's a good one too. Vance, how'd you see race 10?
Chad Brown has a couple of entrants here, and he started off the Monmouth meet quite fast, as he usually does, 4 for 9. But I'm going to take a stand against both of his horses in here and go with number 5, Golden Channel, for George Weaver. Golden Channel ran a really solid race at Gulfstream at this class level in late March, just missing by a head. It wasn't quite as sharp last month at Aqueduct in a similar spot, but that, as the favorite, kind of his bid kind of petered out. He finished 6th, beaten 4 lengths, but that obviously that was a higher class level. You're going to see a higher class level of entry level allowance horses at Aqueduct compared to Delaware. I think the class drop here is going to help him immensely. And if he runs back to that Gulfstream effort 2 back, I figure he's going to be pretty tough.
And again, 4-1 on the morning line. That's, if you can get 4-1, that's solid.
Very, very much so. Very much so. And really the only rough race that we see on his past performances was the Pennine Ridge last year, which was rained off the turf at Saratoga. You know, he was beaten nearly 10 lengths, but, you know, that was a 4-horse field. Back on the grass, he's run back to his better form since then.
So in using this from a wagering standpoint, all you got is exactas, tries, and supers. How would you recommend playing it?
Definitely, if we're getting 4-1, I'm definitely using that as a win wager. Even a single on the back end of the late double, I would use Golden Channel. And as far as the vertical exotics, you know, I think the Brown duo here look pretty tough for varying reasons. So, you know, key exacta, Golden Channel over the Brown duo, I think would be a pretty good play.
All right, so number 5, Golden Channel. 10th race at Monmouth. Vance's top pick in there. Vance, you've got one more race to talk about here. You've selected the 12th race at Delaware Park, which is another turf event, maiden special weight, 1 1/16 on the lawn. An interesting race. I think there were a few different ways you can go. Which way did you choose?
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. I kind of was going back and forth on at least 3 or 4 horses in here, and I'm landing on Scanner for Grand Motion. This will be his second start of his career. He debuted Preakness weekend at Laurel, got some play, you know, 5-1, and you know, he showed some immaturity. At the start, but at least he showed a little bit of speed here. Ultimately, he petered out, finished 6th, beaten nearly 5 lengths. But, you know, compared to some of the other second-time starters in this race and compared to the, you know, some of the debut horses he's facing in this contest, I think that was a pretty decent effort. I think he'll step forward from this. And, you know, like I said, he showed a little speed in that Laurel race. There isn't a whole lot of that in this race. If jockey Irad Ortiz kind of hustles him out of the gate a little bit, I could see Scanner on the lead and perhaps lasting quite a ways.
Well, I see a little bit of pace maybe on the inside from one of the 2 Mac Robertson runners, and Jose Ortiz gets put onto one of them, Pure Octane. I was looking a little closer at Slobberknocker, though, since these 2 did race together last time. Where do you give the chances of either Slobberknocker or Pure Octane for Extreme and Mac Robertson?
You know, I went back and looked at Pure Octane's debut, and he did break a little slowly, so, you know, that was a bit of a concern. I did like the fact that he showed a little bit of speed in that race, but going back, I was a little bit concerned whether he'll get his slow starting tendencies out of the way, entered back in this race. I think Slobberknocker, given his improved effort last time, is probably the more competitive of the 2 in this race, even though he is going from dirt to turf.
That's a word you don't hear used often enough, in my opinion. Slobberknocker. I love that name.
I would love to know what the definition of that is.
Well, I think it's a lot like if you have a real throwdown, right? If you're in the trenches with football, for example, the offensive lineman, it turns into a real slobber knocker, right? I think is how you would use it.
All right. That sounds good to me.
I mean, that's the way I'm going with it. I remember listening to the late Craig Wolfley, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a radio host in Pittsburgh for many, many years, and he passed away. But he would always use this word slobber knocker to describe the type of game he thought it was going to turn into.
Well, that's, what was it, the steel curtain back then? I guess in those days he covered it. He probably saw a lot of slobber knockers in his
there you go.
Announcing career.
Use the word slobber knocker in a sentence. We should do that once an hour here on the Equine Forum, I think, going forward. That's a great word. Vance, let's recap your 3 selections before we let you go. In race 7 at Delaware, you'll go with number 4, Alluring Angel, 5-2 on the morning line. Race 10 at Monmouth, number 5, Golden Channel at 4-1. And in race 12 at Delaware, number 9, Scanner at 9-2. What else is happening with TwinSpires and Brisk this weekend?
Well, this weekend, of course, we've got a lot of great stakes action elsewhere around the country, including Churchill Downs, Burnham Square, in the Chorleywood, and Percy's Bar running in the Monomoy Girls. So check those races out. Just to mention going forward this coming week, of course, we've got the Royal Ascot, 5 great days of racing over in England, and TwinSpires is really covering that a lot this week. Kelly Riley is going to be providing selections for days 1, 2, and 5. I'll be doing days 3 and 4, and then Alistair Bull will be covering some of the huge field handicaps, giving out his top plays, and he's really good at sniffing out winners traditionally in those kind of races. So if you have an eye on Royal Ascot this coming week, TwinSpires is the place to check out for some great information.
Vance, good luck this weekend, my friend. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Angela. Have a great weekend.
Don't forget, too, you can bet all of those races Vance just talked about in every race you're going to play this weekend and every weekend with TwinSpires. Coming up next, Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History presented by Keeneland. It's an awesome story about a gentleman by the name of Polo Jim, a former slave who journeyed north and became an assistant starter for New York racing. Really cool story by Kurt Becker coming up in that segment. But Angela, before we get to this commercial break, every week we give out a Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question here on the show. We mention it once an hour. Lee Delapina, our producer, comes up with it. And my goodness, did he have a tough one this week.
It's a stumper. Which 18th century thoroughbred, sired by Eclipse, had a name that was 11 letters long and 9 of those letters were the same vowel? Think long and hard. It's definitely a head scratcher.
Yeah, I have no clue. I can't wait for the answer coming up at the end of the show. 10:55 Eastern or thereabouts, the final segment. We will bring you the answer to this week's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. No Googling. Get your mojo working. See if you can come up with it. All right, we're going to get to a break. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History is next. Dale and Tim still to come, 10:30 Eastern. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Join us at Churchill Downs for live racing now through June 28th, with live racing Thursday through Sunday in May and Wednesday through Sunday in June. You'll have great wagering opportunities, including low 15% takeout pick 5s and a $3 late pick 3. Plus, you won't want to miss our 2 special Downs After Dark cards on Saturday, May 16th and Saturday, June 20th, all leading up to a stakes-filled day of racing on Stephen Foster Day, Saturday, June 27th, including 7 stakes worth $3.1 million. For more information and tickets, visit churchilldowns.com.
A Keeneland session topper from the first crop of the all-conquering Vekoma. Jonathan's Way was touted by purchaser John Moynihan as, quote, one of the best-looking horses you'll ever lay your eyes on. Out of an undefeated stakes-winning juvenile daughter of Indian Charlie, Jonathan's Way is a complete outcross through his first 5 generations and comes from the immediate female family of the great Dynaformer. Brilliantly talented with the pedigree and physical makeup to be commercial dynamite. Jonathan's Way, a future stallion star standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was born a slave near New Orleans, and after the Civil War, he went north and became a popular figure and assistant starter at New York racetracks. His name was Ambrose Allen Jefferson, but he was better known as Polo Jim. Born in 1854 in Louisiana, Polo Jim went to New Orleans following the Civil War and took a job as a stable hand at the racetrack. He then went north and found his way to New York City, believing his talents would have greater scope in a setting perhaps more conducive to a young black man testing the opportunities of his newfound freedom. When Polo Jim left the South, it was said that he tied a week's wages in a bandana and began the journey with only the clothes on his back. Upon his arrival in New York City, he worked various jobs, all of which he found to be unsatisfactory and lacking in pay. Polo Jim eventually took a job at the New York racetracks as a groom and exercise rider for tobacco manufacturer George Lorillard. He soon became assistant manager for the stable, and he would later say that his experience working with horses as a slave in the South had placed him in good stead as an aspiring young horseman in the North. It was also around this time that Polo Jim became known by his nickname instead of his birth name. Ambrose Allen Jefferson had taken a job training polo ponies for James Gordon Bennett, and friends and acquaintances began calling him Polo Jim because the 3 syllables of his nickname were less cumbersome than the 7 syllables of his birth name. It was said that Polo Jim was tall, handsome, quick-witted, and intelligent, and he possessed a remarkable ability to subdue even the most stubborn horse. Prominent financiers August Belmont and Leonard Jerome took note of him and helped advance his career. Because of his growing reputation as a horseman, and with men such as Belmont and Jerome backing him, Polo Jim came to the attention of New York starter James Caldwell. And if Caldwell was skeptical at first, he soon became a believer in Polo Jim's abilities. "He's alert, has good judgment, and has courage and physical strength," said Caldwell. "Those are all qualities which are necessary to help get a field of fractious horses into line for the start of a race." Polo Jim soon became known as the best assistant starter in the business. The starting gate would not come into existence for several more decades, and the task of getting all the horses to align themselves properly before dropping the flag to start the race often seemed nearly impossible. Polo Jim himself once commented on the dangers of his profession. "Many a horse has a sample of me between his teeth," Polo Jim once recalled with a laugh. "And I've dodged more kicks than would knock the side of a house into toothpicks." It was said that jockeys witnessed scores of exciting struggles unseen by patrons in the grandstand between Polo Jim and vicious horses that resisted all attempts on the part of their riders to control them. On more than one occasion, Polo Jim would cling to the bridles of such unruly creatures who would then drag him as much as 150 yards down the course. He would be bruised and shaken, but he would limp back to finish his day's work. His body bore multiple scars as evidence of those encounters. Polo Jim was popular among jockeys as they respected his strength, intelligence, and finesse, and they liked him for his good nature. He enforced his orders strictly. His authority was never questioned. His honesty prevented any lasting resentment among the jockeys, and he never bore malice toward anyone. That's not to suggest there were not tense moments, as evidenced by the fact a jockey once became outraged after Polo Jim had accidentally struck him in the face with a whip. The jockey confronted him later that afternoon in the paddock and stabbed him in the chest and neck with a penknife, but the victim refused to press charges. "It was done in anger," said Polo Jim. "Let the boy go. I've got no hard feelings against him." The incident was an example of Polo Jim's self-control and gracious attitude. As such, he also was a man of sound and simple advice. Consider his quip whenever someone asked him for advice on betting horses. He would smile and say, "The best way to make your money go further is to keep it in your pocket." Regrettably, Polo Jim became ill with pneumonia in the spring of 1894 and after 3 days succumbed at the age of 40. He left a widow to mourn his passing, as well as many friends and colleagues, as a crowd estimated at 1,500 persons attended his funeral at St. Mark's Methodist Episcopal Church on 48th Street in New York City. Per his wishes, Polo Jim was buried at Evergreens Cemetery, alongside a child which had been born to him and his wife sometime earlier, but had died at the age of 8 months. His friends wept at his funeral when Reverend Ernest Lyon said, "Polo Jim's voice shall no more send the horses dashing down the track." But as one of the pallbearers said to a reporter, Polo Jim's legacy is that he was the center not of attention, but of admiration. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Kurt Becker with another fantastic story. If you did miss it, head over to our website after I finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Podbean or Apple Podcasts to hear all of our weekly shows. Coming up next, I welcome Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's Voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Horse racing is here for our 89th season of live thoroughbred racing every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday at Delaware Park and Casino. Join us for Delaware Derby and Oaks Day on Saturday, June 13th. There will be an all-stakes pick 5 and an all-turf pick 3. Enjoy live racing, food trucks, vendors, and much, much more. Plus, don't miss the t-shirt and hat giveaways while supplies last. More information at DelawarePark.com. Join us today.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
Equity short lead. Chief Wallabies making a big move from behind. Golden Tempo is coming along with Commandment as the field turns for home. On the inside, Growth Equity is just in front. Chief Wallaby comes to him. Out in the center of the racetrack, Commandment's running a giant race. Renegade in between and Golden Tempo. Golden Tempo, Renegade, Commandment on the outside. Golden Tempo from last to first has to fend off Commandment in the final strides. Golden Tempo pulls away late. Golden Tempo has won the Belmont Stakes. Commandment ran lights out in second. Renegade was third. And Cherie DeVoe writes another chapter in her outstanding story.
Frank Miramati with the call. Last week's Belmont Stakes. After capturing the Belmont, Golden Tempo is now going to be pointed to the Jim Dandy and Travers this summer, following the same path as Sovereignty last year. We'll debate whether or not history will indeed repeat itself. Plus, is it possible that Golden Tempo's Belmont win was the second best training feat we saw last weekend? And what factors influence a jockey's decision when choosing a horse in a multi-million-dollar race? Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead with trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin. They will join Angela and me next on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. And it all comes your way just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, guys, now that Golden Tempo has won both the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont, he's going to be on the same path as Sovereignty last year, who became the first horse to win the Derby, the Belmont Stakes, the Jim Dandy, and the Travers. Are you buying or selling that Golden Tempo will successfully follow in Sovereignty's footsteps this summer at Saratoga? Dale, buy or sell?
I want to buy. Where's our cha-ching? Let's finally give him the respect he deserves and earned in his last two races. I mean, until somebody beats him, he's the head of the class. It was a great training job, great ride, and a good horse. So I'm going to buy.
I don't know if Lee has a sound for this, but I'm going to sort of buy.
That's the right sound. You can't hedge your bet, yes or no?
I'm going to sort of buy. Right now, Golden Tempo, he proved it to me. I mean, I wasn't sold on him heading into the Belmont, and from a handicapping standpoint, I don't think many handicappers that picked the race were sold on him either. I think there was only one person that I saw picked him on top. I don't think you picked him, Angela, did you?
No, I had him and Chief Wallaby in the Derby, and I thought of it the same way, and I just still stayed married to Chief Wallaby.
Yeah, I did the same thing with Commandment. I was with Commandment in the Derby, and I stayed with him in the Belmont. But Golden Tempo certainly, he proved everybody else wrong, and he's obviously on top of his game right now. Not including the Triple Crown winners. There's been 12 horses that have swept the Derby Belmont double. Granted, Sovereignty and Golden Tempo did it at a mile and a quarter. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some people that'll hold that against him, saying he didn't really, didn't win at a mile and a half. But he has those two wins, and now the next start is going to be the Jim Dandy at a mile and an eighth.
Too short for him?
I don't know. That's the thing that I'm hedging a little bit because, you got horses like Commandment, and if Renegade goes, those horses are proven that might be their best distance, a mile and eighth. But, I'm not going to sell this horse Golden Tempo short anymore until he loses because, Cherie DeVoe's done a fantastic job with him, and her confidence was never wavered as he headed into the Belmont. So, I think he could do it, but, the Jim Dandy's going to be an interesting race, to say the least, at a mile and eighth.
All right, so I'll throw topic 2 then back your way, Tim, because it does tie to Golden Tempo. A comparison, what was more impressive? Golden Tempo capturing 2/3 of that Triple Crown, or Mark Casse winning 3 grade 1 races in 2 days?
That's a very interesting question because they're both outstanding achievements. There's, anytime you win multiple grade 1s over a big weekend like that, it's you have to sit up and take notice. Mark Casse did an awesome job with Classic Q in Just a Game, Nitrogen in the Phipps, and Counting Stars, the Acorn, and starting with Counting Stars, who, he was handled, pretty easily in the Kentucky Oaks by Always a Runner, and then he comes back and wins the race by three plus lengths. And on the same day, Nitrogen, who some people were writing off, last year's champion 3-year-old, he had a, he had a win, a second and a third so far this year. But Mark had told me, he goes, in 2 of his races this year, he ran his best buyers, 97s, heading into the Ogden Phipps. And then he goes back and wins by a dozen lengths and has 113 buyer. And Classic Q winning the Just a Game at 6-1 by a length and a quarter. Those are fantastic achievements. But, what Cherie DeVoe did with, Golden Tempo, then she also won with Englishman, the Woody Stevens. I mean, those are two. That's a photo finish to me, and I think I'm going to give it to Mark.
Dale?
That's good. He finally answered the question. Yeah, I thought he was going to hedge again there, didn't you? All at the end, he finally came through and answered the question.
He's still on the fence.
Yeah, I mean that's a hell of an accomplishment. Win 3 Grade 1s in a weekend. It hasn't been done very often. I do remember Suge McGahee winning 5 Grade 1s on one day. That was the most impressive thing I remember in horse racing. But I don't want to speak for Mark, but he may have traded all 3 for a Classic win. They're just hard to come by. So I'm going to go with Cherie winning the Derby, Belmont, 2/3 of the Triple Crown. I'll go with her on this one.
That's an interesting question. We'll see if Nick Zito can find a way to get Timmy Wilkin off the fence a little bit here this morning. And we'll welcome Nick to the show like we do every single week. And Dale and Tim will have the chance to tell us if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
The Kentucky Horse Racing and Gaming Corporation announced this week that they have shortened the time for horses placed on the vets list for unsoundness to become eligible to work. The time frame has been adjusted from 14 days to 7 days. Is this decision right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale, you want it first?
I'll take it first since I'm on the corporation. I'm going to say that's 100% right. I mean, we're getting in line with the ISA rules, and the uniformity is important. That was discussed about a lot in our meetings, and I think we got this one right. And the thing is, there's a lot of problems like a bruised foot or a cut that they're going to scratch a horse for because he's off that day, but a couple of days later he's fine. And we need to get these horses back into the population as quickly as possible.
Well, Dale, I'm going to agree with that. I'm not on the fence on this one at all.
Good.
And it's not like the health and welfare of the horse is obviously the number one priority, of course. And horses, they still have to pass a workout for a state vet and then get meet the required diagnostic imaging standards before being cleared. It's not like it's going to say, okay, after 7 days, we're just going to let you go right back out to the races. They're still going to be going over with a fine-tooth comb. But, it's like you said, if it's something really minor and it's not going to be something that's going to take 2 weeks, and you want to get them back to the races as soon as possible because that's what everyone's in the game for. And, I know, just being out of the backstretch as much as I am, I know that the trainers of these horses, they're not going to send a horse out that's injured for the most part. They care about these animals. They want the best for them. So, there's been instances where, some of these vets will, take a horse out and they don't know the horse. They don't know the horse like the trainer does. And there might not be anything wrong with them, but they don't like the way that the gait is or something like that. But, horsemen care about these animals, and you want them to be able to do what they're bred to do and what the trainers are paid to do. So I think this is a good idea.
Dale, why is 7 days better than 14? Is it simply because you can get your horse back to the races quicker?
Yeah, I mean, it's a week saved. I mean, every day's $1. Yep. And you can get your horse back quicker and get it running again a week earlier. You can get into a race, and you can also enter that next week because you have to work for the vet, and then they draw blood on you. You have to wait for the blood work to come back. But they are allowing horses to enter, and if the blood work makes it back, which it usually does, because since we enter a week out now, then they can go ahead and run in that race. And like I said, there's a lot of minor things that horses aren't fit to run that day that the state vet will pick up on. They go away quickly. And So it's the thing, and like you say, the state vet could show up 7 days later when you're ready to work off and not like the way the horse looks and not let you work it. So it's not like Tim said, it's not automatic. You're not just off. But if you got a bruised foot, a lot of times those go away in a day or two, and you should be off the vet's list and be back running.
Especially in an era where we're fighting field sizes, right? To get these horses back quicker is a good thing, assuming that they're definitely healthy.
Yes, and they will be. If they get off the vet's list, they're good and healthy. But like I said, it's for the minor issues that they get put on there for. And, if a horse passes in a week, let him run.
Yep. Yeah, and Timmy, great point about the fact that these horses are still scrutinized. They're still going through the veterinary oversights and the process of being looked at by the vets. So this isn't taking that part of it away. It's just getting these horses back quicker when they can come back quicker.
Oh, yeah. And Dale, a question for you. Have you ever had a situation where you have a horse that just might have a hitch or something that's his natural gait, and you have to convince a vet that that's him, that's just the way the horse is?
I think that's overused, to tell you the truth, Tim. I mean, a lot of my trainer friends will get mad at me for saying it, but usually if they have a bad hitch, it's from a problem. There is something called string halts on a horse that makes them look, it's pretty complicated, but their back leg will pop up when they walk. War Will had a terrible string halt, but it's only in the gait of walk. Sometimes that can get confused for being sore behind, and that's the kind of thing that a state vet needs to know the horse was like that. But then when he jogs off, he jogs fine. But most of the time, if they're just jogging on the road and they're off, there's a problem.
All right, we'll bring Nick Zito back for that segment next week, as we do every week here on I Ask, They Answer. We've got a few more to get to. The last three topics, guys, all coming from listeners, and this next one coming from Peter in Agawam, Massachusetts. He wants to know, how often, Dale, will a trainer put a horse in for a tag in an optional claiming race for a reason other than having given up on the horse's ability? He's coming at it from a handicapping perspective. He said, should it be an automatic red flag that a horse has been put in for a tag in an optional claiming race?
No, it shouldn't. And a lot of people don't understand optional claiming races. An optional claiming race is usually, say it's a 2 other than or 62.5 claimer is the option. Most of the horses in for the 62.5 are no longer eligible for the 2 other than condition. So they've won an A other than and a 2 other than, can't clear the 3 other than the next level. So they'll run in the 2 other than again for the tag part. And they can be very competitive in that level. And then if you look at a place like Gulfstream this winter, started riding like 150,000 optional. So your horse could run for 150,000 instead of for the allowance part. And what that did for us in Florida, it allowed us to run a horse we no one could claim for the 150 in an allowance race with a $40,000 purse, keep our allowance condition, bring it back to Kentucky and run in the same allowance race for a $130,000 purse. So it's a lot of people don't understand those optional claimers. I hear it every day, and I have people call me and say, hey, we can run our horse for 62.5 here, but we're eligible for 1 other than. It's actually jumping a condition into a tougher race to run for the claiming price. And so you always got to pay attention. You want the horses running for the tag to have cleared the condition, but he's coming back into the same race, but he is putting himself up for the tag. So you kind of want the claiming price to match what level of horse it would take to win that allowance race. And conditions have a lot to do with the value of the horse. If I'm buying a maiden, I know I have a maiden condition, 1 other than, 2 other than. If I'm buying a horse that's already cleared a 2 other than, then he better be able to win 3 other than. They don't have any 4 other thans, or be a stake horse, or he's going back into the claiming ranks.
And Dale, even if you're like going at a smaller track, maybe say at Canterbury Park or something that doesn't have all those conditions, it might almost be a good thing that a horse has won too much. They have to be in for a tag, but that they're in for a higher tag than maybe they had been before.
Right, exactly. You don't want to run them for the 40 or the 50, but you run them for the 62.5. If you've gone through your 1 other than, 2 other than in Minnesota, then you don't want to run 3 other than in Kentucky, so you'll run back for the tag against a 2 other than allowance horses.
Timmy, how have you always viewed this from a handicapping perspective?
Well, what could be seen as a red flag from the handicapping end, there's a drastic price drop. If a horse has been running in, high-end allowances or a stakes race and suddenly he's dropped into a real cheap race, it could signal maybe the horse is losing its form or has developed a physical issue. And then, you have to look at that. And, if the connections are willing to risk a loss, obviously barns want to keep their best horses, and if they're willing to risk losing a horse for a tag, it could mean they're ready to move on from a different horse. So there are red flags and there aren't red flags, if you know what I mean. You just have to pay attention to the whole ordeal in each individual race.
Well, going on to our next question, I want to thank Will in White House, Tennessee. That sort of relates to that, I suppose, in a smaller barn or a larger barn. Talking about larger barns, Dale, I want to start with you on this question. Do trainers with larger barns get the chance at some point to work with every horse that they train because of the large numbers? Or are there horses that they're training that they themselves never actually work with, but their team does?
Do a lot of work with a big bunch of them, but they'll see them. They'll make sure they see them and know their horses, and they might not see them every single day. Like a lot of people have divided barns where we'll have horses at Ellis Park and here. Well, usually what happens on a dark day when there's no racing, the trainer will go to his second barn, go over all the horses, but he stays in constant contact with his team during the rest of the week.
What's the ideal size for like a team? How many horses would you like to have per assistant?
Well, too many horses is more.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, and it just depends on how hard you want to work. I mean, what Steve Asmussen does every day with the number of horses he has is insane. I would never want to be doing the job that he's doing. But you got to have it around you, and it just depends on the team you've got, what stable size fits you the best. I like to stay around between 50 and 75, somewhere in there. Is my sweet spot. I've been up to 250 at one time, and that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Dale, do trainers that have these bigger barns, like an Asmussen, for example, do they use all the technology that's now available where maybe their assistants at these other racetracks are doing walking videos of every horse because he can't be there to be in person to look at them, but he can at least see videos of those horses? Is that something that's ever done?
Yeah, all the time. One of the biggest changes I've seen in racing in the last 10 years is how many assistants are on the racetrack videoing the horses training. And I know for one, Steve had full-time employees that do nothing but video works and send them to him. And then he'll watch the works on videos.
Yeah, that's a question I get quite often from listeners. And, of course, Will in White House providing this one. But a lot of listeners, Timmy, are just baffled by the way that these trainers can have so many horses and keep up with all of them. Training horses is a full-time job, but somehow they keep up with all these horses and all these locations. It's pretty remarkable.
And there's some organizational websites that are good tools. I mean, T-Lore's been around a long time. Tracy Lore started it, and it was a big help to all of us that have multiple stables and a lot of horses. And it was ended up being bought by the Jockey Club. And I would say the majority of guys with a lot of horses are using T-Lore.
I'm going to use this for an example. Pletcher's barn at Saratoga. Every set that goes out of his main barn, he checks every single one of the horses before they go out. Obviously, he can't check the ones because he has horses over at the harness track, too. Obviously, he can't check them. He goes over like Dale says, he goes over to check those horses. Bill Mott goes over to check his horses at the harness track. And I know, for example, from firsthand experience, when I want to talk to Todd Pletcher after training, I'll be waiting outside his office maybe sometimes for 45 minutes because he's on the phone with his assistants in other places going over every horse that did something. I mean, Mark Cassey, when he's in Ocala, he's watching every horse that works on his computer. He sees all this stuff. I mean, it's not like they don't have a bead on just every horse they have. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time when Todd Pletcher says, who is this horse? I don't even know who this is. He knows exactly what every horse he has is doing every day. And I don't know how they do it, but they do.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is,
great point.
Like, if a horse is moving good and moving the same every day is one thing. What happens is the system will see a problem or a horse is off, and then you get that call. You need to come and check this one.
That's a call no trainer wants to get.
But you always do. It's every day. First half of my career, I was waiting for the perfect day, and I finally decided it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, when you're in Saratoga, for example, obviously you still have horses in Kentucky. How do you keep tabs on them? What do you do?
Well, my sister and I have been together for 40 years, and so we talk every day. And if there's a problem, we'll talk about it. And then I have a private vet in Kentucky that only works for me, and him and I'll get on the phone and talk about issues.
And do you get on the phone with your assistant to decide what each horse is going to do the next day?
Yes.
I mean, that's time consuming for sure.
It is. But, a lot of the problem is what you really work on are the problems, fixing the problems. The ones that are training regular and they're going to do the same thing, the gallop 6 days, work one, the day off, it's pretty regimented. But when you've got a problem you need to deal with, that's when you really have to step in.
Right.
Yeah, Will, it's a great topic. We've got another listener topic to wrap up the show here this morning. It comes from Greg in Oklahoma. He wants to know how it works when a rider has several choices for a big race. It's usually assumed that they're going to choose the horse they think has the best chance to win. Does a wealthy owner ever step in and pay a large bonus to, say, a Hall of Fame jockey to entice them to ride their horse in a big multi-million-dollar race? Does that ever happen, guys? Who wants it first? Dale, Tim?
I'll take it. That happens. It does. But, I mean, I've heard of owners saying, hey, you get I'll guarantee you $50,000. You ride my horse, win, lose, or draw. Or, there what used to be time, Patrick Valenzuela had a retainer from Alan Paulson, and it was a big retainer, which said he had to ride every horse he ran if he had a conflict. And I don't know of any of those going on right now, but I have heard of a couple of times in the Derby. There's a big rider. I won't put his business on the streets, but he used to get $50,000 for a horse to ride it in the Derby. He did it a couple of years that big owner would pay him. But most of the time, it's just the agent doing the work, figuring out who the best horse is, trying to ride the winner. But one thing they have to remember, maybe you don't look the best here, but there's a race down the road that you're going to fit better in, and you don't want to lose your mount. And where there's usually a big conflict, like if they're running out of town. One's running here, one's running there. You hear the stories all the time of a guy that rode a horse once and then had to go out of town and ride another one, and the one he took off of ended up being champion. But that's why the agents get paid a lot of money.
I mean, like you look at the prime example of this year's Derby. Irad Ortiz Jr., he rode Commandment in the Florida Derby. He rode Renegade in the Arkansas Derby. He rode Further Ado in the Bluegrass. And he stuck with Renegade, but if you talk to Irad, it's not like he made the decision. He said he left it up to the agent, Steve Rushing, and that's how that came about. He trusts his agent to make the right decision, and I think it doesn't hurt at all too that Renegade, who's trained by Todd Pletcher, who's his main guy for the summer at Saratoga. So I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that too. But he also rides for Brad Cox, so. It's not like he left it in the lap of Steve Rushing and trusted his decision.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, too, because a lot of people just assume that it's simply the agent picking the right horse. And as Dale said, and Timmy said, most of the time that's the case. But there are other exceptions to that rule with some owners. So good question there. We appreciate it. If you have a question for Dale and Tim and you want us to debate it or answer it for you here on the show, simply email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and we will do our best to work it in for you. Guys, about 2 minutes left. It leaves us enough time for our West Point of the Week, brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. From a single horse in 1991 to the winner's circle at the Kentucky Derby, West Point Thoroughbreds is proud to be celebrating 35 years of the pursuit of excellence. Experience the gold standard in racing partnerships and join our legacy. Visit westpointtb.com. West Point Thoroughbreds, 35 years of making memories, one race at a time. And Counting Stars did that for him last weekend too, Timmy.
certainly did. Congratulations to West Point on that. But for my last point, clock is ticking on Aqueduct Racetrack. 2 weeks left. It'll close for live racing for good 2 weeks from tomorrow. It'll be over for simulcasting for the summer meet at Saratoga, but after that, it's all done. And a lot of memories at Aqueduct, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about in a couple of weeks when we get closer. But if you're in the New York area, you have a chance to go see Aqueduct one more time live racing, do it.
Good point, Tim. Good point. I want to congratulate Naira on putting on not only a good weekend this weekend for the festival, for 3 years of good festival. It was, I know everybody had a good time. The 2 years I went there, it was great, and you couldn't have picked a better weekend of racing. So good job, Naira, Mark Holliday, and your whole team.
I said that last week.
Great stuff. Yeah, it was fantastic. It was really well done, and yeah, what a great weekend of racing. Guys, I'm going to jump in here with one this week, too. I don't often do it, but on Wednesday, racing lost another wonderful friend. When John Greathouse Jr. passed away at the age of 82, he helped Glencrest Farm for so many years, and he helped me a lot when I came to Kentucky. He was one of those guys that was super nice, and nobody knew me coming from Massachusetts. I was trying to get my foot in the door, and all of the Greathouse family was so wonderful to me, but John Greathouse would always take time to spend a few minutes with me every time he saw me, and it's a huge loss for racing and a huge loss for everybody who knew and loved him.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep, wonderful person. Guys, appreciate it. We're going to do this all over again next Saturday morning. I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. We'll talk to you next week, guys.
Next week.
All right, coming up next, Angela and I bring you the answer to this week's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question and a little update from Blood Horse. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Here we go.
Come on, boys.
Good luck. And they're off. Be part of the story. Own the moment. Go to MojoRacingPartners.com to get your mojo working.
A message from Joshua Jackson, actor and Fair Volunteer Ambassador.
Food allergy is a serious, life-threatening disease that impacts over 33 million Americans. When your immune system sees certain food proteins as a threat, every bite matters. But here's the good news. There have been advancements in the treatment of food allergies, and with one voice, we can create better awareness. Because in the FAIR community, the disease doesn't own us. We own our journey. Talk to an allergist to understand your options. Visit foodallergy.org/empower to learn more.
Remember the last time your family visited the forest? It's a place of wonder and imagination for the whole family, where stories come to life. And it's closer than you think. Ready to plan your next visit? Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day-Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Blood Horse Magazine, the premier monthly publication of the thoroughbred industry. The June Kentucky Derby results issue of Blood Horse Magazine is out now. An American Horse Publications Equine Media General Excellence Award winner, a Blood Horse subscription is a must-read for any true racing enthusiast. Visit bloodhorse.com/subscribe to get your print or digital subscription. For a limited time, you receive a free Blood Horse branded tote with your subscription or renewal. That's Blood Horse Magazine, the premier monthly publication of the thoroughbred industry.
You know, we had several questions from listeners in that edition of I Asked, They Answered with Dale and Tim, but we have more questions that have been submitted we didn't get to this week, so we have plenty more coming up next week. And again, if you have a question for Dale and Tim, you can email the show or post your question on our social media pages, and we'll do our best to work it in for you. Angela, in case you're wondering, going back to what we talked about earlier with Vance Hanson in the TwinSpires Triple Play, a slobber knocker can refer to a hard-hitting, fiercely competitive event. So I wasn't that far off.
No, you were pretty close, and I'm rooting for the connections of slobber knocker 100%, so having the meaning put to it. Hope he delivers one of those today.
Yep. All right, it is time for our Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia Question Answer. Lee Delapina has it. Lee?
Thank you, Mike. Which 18th century thoroughbred sired by Eclipse had a name that was 11 letters long and 9 of those letters were the same vowel? That was a horse named Potatoes, spelled P-O-T-O-O-O-O-O-O-O. P-O-T followed by 8 O's. Potatoes. Thanks to Mojo Racing Partners for this week's Impossible Trivia Question. Get your mojo working at mojoracingpartners.com.
What a great question. Angela, did you have it?
No, he tied me up, and how? Yeah, very well done, Lee.
That was submitted by a listener, by the way, Steve in Kansas. We appreciate that question and you submitting an Impossible Trivia Question presented by our friends at Mojo. Angela, really enjoyed it. Great show. We're back next week with another one, 3 hours next Saturday morning.
Oh, this is always a great time. See you next week. Same time, same place.
All right. Our thanks to all of our listeners for making this show possible and tuning in this morning. All of our guests who joined us here on the show. To Lee Delapina in our Lexington studios. Kim Price, our producer in Lexington as well. And Chauncey for handling all of our social media. I'm Mike Penna for Angela Hermann. Thanks for listening to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires here on HRRN. Go Steelers.